Chapter 146. At the same time, in the basement of the largest church in Tangin village. In the middle of the basement, there was a huge blood pool that was constantly bubbling, but strangely, there was no stench of blood around. Instead, there was a fresh and natural smell. In front of the blood pool, a kind-looking old man stood quietly, looking at the blood pool with fanatical eyes. Behind him, there were dozens of Tangin ninjas with the same fanatical eyes. The old man chanted loudly, "Soon, the perfect vessel of Shing-sama will be born soon, so we need more sacrifices." The crowd also shouted with fanaticism, "Sacrifice! Sacrifice!" But at this time, a discordant voice came from the crowd, "Bishop, there are already ninjas from Woodleaf and Yunnan coming to investigate. Should we slow down a little and wait for them to leave before continuing the sacrifice?" The bishop frowned. Is a mere Woodleaf from Yunnan worthy of delaying the arrival of Shing-sama? A mere Woodleaf from Yunnan? The ninja who spoke couldn't help but stare blankly. Has the bishop been out of touch with the outside world for too long? Thinking of this, Kuroto couldn't help but remind Kuroto, "I heard that among the people sent by Konoha to investigate this time, there is Shimizu Shushi who shone brilliantly in the war. He's the top combat power that can change the course of a war by himself, and he's even called the Great Demon King by many cloud ninjas." However, the bishop wasn't surprised. Great. Last time, Konoha's shinobi was worth 10 offerings. If Shimizu Azushi is really that powerful, then maybe he alone can make up for 100 offerings. At that time, the day of Shing-sama's awakening will come as soon as possible. At this time, there was a sudden sound of footsteps. The group of ninjas in front of the blood pool hurriedly turned to look at the entrance. A group of ninjas wearing woodleaf headbands appeared in their sight. The bishop's face changed slightly. "How did you find this place?" Kurenai snapped her fingers. After determining the target, I used genjutsu to ask. Asma shrugged helplessly. "You took the initiative to send all the information to us. Are you stupid?" Mizuki's killing intent was biting cold. "Idiot." The bishop's face was red with anger. This was the first time he was behind the scenes. How could he not have experience? "Impudent people, Shing-sama will punish you." Garashi asked coldly, "Where are our Woodleaf ninjas?" Woodleaf ninjas? They have become part of Shing-sama. The bishop's eyes were fierce. "Don't worry, you will meet them soon. Believers, let's show them your power, let them repent under the glory of Shing-sama." Except for a small number of ninjas who joined recently and were still hesitating, the rest of the ninjas rushed towards Shueisha and the others like crazy. Although these people looked fierce, in fact, most of them weren't even ninjas. Moreover, the ninjas of the 5 great ninja villages have always fought with the ninjas of the small ninja villages, so naturally, Shushi and the others were very calm. "Garashi, leave these guys to us. You just rest on the side." Garashi reminded, "This religion is likely to be related to blood, pay attention not to bleed, and don't get stained with their blood." Understood. After starting the operation, Mizuki rushed directly toward the bishop. The other party said that he wanted to kill Garashi, so he can't just ignore it. Mizuki is too cunning. Forget it, let's go find others. There are still a lot of people eyeing the bishop, but they don't intend to compete with Mizuki. Seeing Mizuki rushing toward him, the bishop calmly said, "Impudent people, I will let you see Shing-sama's." Puff. Before his voice fell, his heart was pierced by a kunai, and then he fell down in disbelief. That's it? Sure enough, he's an idiot. Mizuki disdainfully turned and walked toward the others. But at this moment, a subtle sound suddenly came from behind him. Without much time to think, Mizuki subconsciously dodged to the side. The next moment, a short knife came down from where he was originally. That was close. Mizuki turned around and looked at the same time, and then his eyes suddenly widened. He saw the bishop who should have died came back to life again, and he grabbed the short knife with a grin. How is it possible? Is it a substitution technique? But Mizuki quickly denied this guess. No, his heart was indeed pierced by me. At this time, there were slightly panicked voices from other directions. Why can't these people be killed? Are they all immortal monsters? Use Katan, burn these monsters. Ah! Not long after, painful screams sounded one after another in the basement, and soon there were piles of ashes on the ground. Huh. I was scared to death. I thought they were really unkillable monsters. Just when everyone was slightly relaxed, Mizuki's solemn voice came from another direction. No, Katon can't kill him. Everyone turned around and saw Mizuki being chased by a monster covered in flames. Ugh, ha ha ha. Don't compare me with those defective products, my body is the masterpiece of Lord Xing deity. Although he said so, he could not help but let out painful screams when he was burned by the flames. Obviously, his ability did not make him immune to pain. It's really the ability of a flying Dan, but it seems to be slightly inferior to a flying Dan. Garashi watched quietly from afar. He could feel that the bishop's aura had weakened after his heart was pierced. If this process was repeated hundreds of times, it should be able to kill him. Speaking of which, this ability seems to be somewhat similar to Edo Tensei. Physical attacks and ordinary energy attacks are not effective. If that's the case, how about a soul attack? Garashi quickly formed a seal with his hands. Spiritualization Jutsu, capture. The bishop who was chasing Mizuki felt something pass through his body, and in the next moment, he knelt on the ground with his head in his hands and screamed at the top of his lungs. Ah! What ability is this? Why is my body collapsing? It's impossible. No one can really hurt me. Everyone subconsciously looked at Garashi and saw a white light returning to his body. So it's Captain. As expected of Jonin Garashi, he can even kill such an undying monster. Hearing the praise of these ninjas, the bishop roared unwillingly, "Damn it, my body is not perfect. If it was the real perfect body, it would definitely be impossible for you ninjas to kill me. Just wait, you sinners will definitely be punished by Lord Diablo." Garashi naturally did not care about the other party's curse, but secretly thought in his heart, sure enough, it's the effect of the soul, using the power of the soul to reflect reality. In the original manga, Orochimaru's hands were taken away by the Grim Reaper, causing him to be unable to use his hands, and when Minato's soul ascended to heaven, he had no hands. It's very likely that the truth-seeking Jade destroyed the souls in his hands, causing the Edo Tensei to also lose his hands. Thinking of this, Garashi's calm heart was stirred. If the soul is strong enough, maybe a normal human body can also do this? At this moment, Asuma's voice came from the blood pool. "Come and see, there is still a child alive here." Chapter 147. Garashi put away his thoughts for the time being and walked towards Asuma. There were 12 round platforms evenly distributed around the blood pool. Similar to the pendants of the Holy God cult, there was also a triangular pattern in the middle. On the triangular pattern, there were some 2 to 3 years old children. However, judging from the situation at the scene, it seemed that only the child in front of Asuma was still alive. Damn it, this bullshit Holy God cult is actually experimenting on children. It should be the Cthulhuism cult. Didn't you hear the curse of the bishop before he died? Who cares what cult it is, such an evil cult shouldn't exist. Garashi, can this little guy still be saved? Garashi walked forward, and a strong sense of déjà vu hit him. This guy was obviously a Smuff Fei Duan. Thinking of this, Garashi couldn't help but look at Asuma. "Garashi, why are you looking at me?" Asuma asked in confusion. "Nothing." Garashi shook his head calmly, and placed his right hand on Fei Duan's stomach. A warm fluorescent light bloomed, and the next moment, Fei Duan slowly opened his eyes. "You are this god's servants?" Everyone was speechless, their mouths twitched. Was this kid's brain fried? Servants, humbly crawling on the ground. Ouch! Asuma directly flicked his head. "Kid, are you awake?" Fei Duan's cold attitude instantly collapsed, and he said in a frenzy, "Despicable bastard, do you know who I am?" Master Fei Duan is the Cthulhuisms. Ouch! Asuma thought he was too noisy, and subconsciously flicked Fei Duan's birdie. Seeing that everyone was looking at him as if he was a pervert, Asuma couldn't help but laugh. Haha, it was just a coincidence. Fei Duan's face was full of shame and anger. "Kill you, I must kill you. I will use the most severe punishment of the Cthulhuism cult, and kill you with a knife. Shui Mu said coldly, this kid seems to have been deeply poisoned by the Cthulhuism cult, leaving him alive is a disaster, why not kill him now? Fei Duan curled his lips, come and kill me if you can. Asma frowned, there's no need, he's just a kid after all. Shui Mu didn't care about his opinion, and only looked at Garashi. Fei Duan, this kid is a good research subject. Garashi said with a smile, bring him back and let Lord Naruto use the will of fire will reform him. Fei Duan, the will of Cthulhuism cult, Cthulhuism, the will of Cthulhuism, Fei Duan Cthulhuism, the will of hell of Cthulhu, will Cthulhuism, Fei, Asma sighed bitterly, there was indeed only one book before, but after realizing the role of the will of fire in Garashi's growth, the old man was inspired, and in the past 2 years, he has written a few more great works, and now the Will of Fire series has expanded to 10 books. Hearing this, the surrounding people subconsciously shuddered. Then, they looked at Fei Duan, who was still clamoring, with sympathetic gazes. Poor kid, he probably didn't know what kind of hell was waiting for him in front of him. After returning to the main camp and reporting the mission, Orochimaru licked the corner of his mouth, immortal body? This is really an enviable ability. Seeing this, Garashi couldn't help but mourn for Fei Duan's future. Not only was he targeted by him, but now Orochimaru was targeting him as well. Jiraiya's face was solemn, fortunately, this Cthulhuism cult was eradicated by you in advance. If Raikage obtained this immortal body, we would be in danger. Minato muttered, Cthulhuism, does this kind of thing really exist? Speaking of which, Shinakushina's clan also has a technique to summon the Grim Reaper, called the Corpse Ghost Seal. Jiraiya laughed, I used to hear such a saying when I was in Mount Mayaboku. They said that the so-called kami is just a figment of people's imagination. When more people know and recognize it, this illusory power will become reality. However, because people's thoughts were mixed with too many emotions, most of these gods were evil. In order to protect the stability and peace of the world, the immortals stood up and fought with these evil gods. In the end, these gods were suppressed and sealed. Orochimaru couldn't help but laugh, it sounds more interesting than your third-rate novels. Jiraiya's face darkened, what do you mean by third-rate novels? My novels are at least second-rate. Orochimaru smiled helplessly, well, second-rate novels. Seeing that the topic was getting further and further away, Minato hurriedly said, Orochimaru, Sama, Sensei, here is the information from a spy, Kirin has begun to move. Speaking of business, Orochimaru also became serious, seeing that we and Yunin have been fighting for so long, Kirin finally can't help but want to join the battle? Jiraiya said in a deep voice, it's not necessarily against us, the second Mizukage and the second Tsuchikage died together in the last war. The hatred between Kirin and Rock Crypsis is not small. Speaking of hatred, which village doesn't have hatred between them? Only interests are the eternal topic. Orochimaru's eyes were calm, in any case, we should be prepared to fight against Kirin. Jiraiya nodded, indeed they should be prepared. Minato, Garashi, you two will work hard for this period of time. If there is a battle in the front line, try to rush to support as soon as possible. Yes. At night, Garashi sorted out some of the information he got from the Cthulhuism Society. Although he didn't intend to do that kind of disgusting human experiment, it was not a problem to use it as a reference. Using blood to wash the whole body, or even replace all the blood in the body, in order to cut the connection between the body and the soul, and then using a secret technique to solidify the soul, achieve the effect of transcending life and death. Seeing this, Garashi slightly shook his head, it sounds very good, but in fact, it's already a half-dead body, such an undying body is not attractive to me. But this so-called secret technique is a bit interesting, turning oneself into the vessel of the Cthulhu, in essence, visualizing oneself as the Cthulhu, and then fanatically believing in oneself, and even absorbing those thoughts to strengthen one's soul step by step. Although this kind of setting is similar to the totem god in the fantasy novels of his previous life, it is not impossible in this world. After all, even the Otsutsuki Kagaya gave birth to the Rikudo brothers because of everyone's blessing, it can be seen that this kind of illusory idea can be transformed into real power. And Jiraiya's words also made him speculate, perhaps the so-called sage, gods, and demons are the native forces of this world, but these forces were defeated by the Otsutsuki from the universe. But to say that these forces are useless, in Garashi's view, it is debatable. Goddess Uno, Rikudo Sennin, their strength is far more powerful than the Otsutsuki family, maybe, they have absorbed the native forces of this world. In Garashi's view, even the Sharingan and Mokuton can restrain the Bijou, indicating that the Otsutsuki family should have a very mature technology to control the Jubi. Just becoming the Jubi's Jinchuriki should not be so much stronger than the Otsutsuki family. In particular, the great change in Kagaya's temperament mentioned in the original work seems to be inexplicably similar to the contamination of gods mentioned by Jiraiya. Even the statement that Otsutsuki Kagaya was blessed by the world to give birth to children also proves this point. She is indeed absorbing everyone's faith. Or is it because of the uniqueness of this world that the fruit of the chakra tree is far more powerful than other chakra fruits, but because the fruit of the chakra tree contains the power of other systems, Kagaya is contaminated and eroded? Looking at the information in front of him, Shushi's expression changed. However, if this conjecture is correct, it also proves that this system is dangerous. Even Kagaya Otsutsuki was unavoidably infected. I'm still too far away from that. Whether this conjecture is true or false, it is better not to get involved with the power of gods for the time being, wait for my clone to be completed, and then try it with my clone. Chapter 148. The moonlight was quiet, and the shadows of the trees were mottled. After patrolling outside for a day, everyone enjoyed a rare moment of peace. But at this moment, the barrier class's alarms suddenly sounded. Enemy attack. Alert. Direction of the hospital. Garashi, who was thinking about what to do in the small tent, immediately stood up and teleported to the temporary hospital with the Flying Thunder God technique. There was some chaos in the hospital, and outside, there was a fierce fighting sound. Seeing Garashi's arrival, the doctors and nurses quickly gathered together as if they had found their backbone. Garashi, thank goodness you're here. Phew. With Garashi-sama here, we don't have to worry. And the enemy outside obviously noticed his arrival. It's Shimizu Garashi. Damn it, this mission has failed. Retreat, don't fight. Garashi did not chase after them. His priority was to protect the doctors and patients. As for chasing after the enemy, naturally, the other Jonins would deal with it. Seeing this, everyone in the hospital was relieved. Sigh. How many times has it been, these Yunin ninjas still haven't given up? I don't know what they're thinking, sneaking into the camp and being discovered, they're dead meat. Garashi comforted them, everyone, go back to your positions, the chaos should be over soon. However, 2 minutes passed. Not only did the noise outside not disappear, but it seemed to be getting more and more intense. Garashi frowned slightly, something was wrong, why was the chaos in the camp not stopping? Could it be that the enemy who sneaked in this time? Thinking of a certain possibility, Garashi could not help but feel a little haze in his heart. At this moment, Inazuka-jo ran anxiously, Garashi, come with me. Garashi shook his head slightly, although I'm not sure what's the situation now, but I can't rule out the possibility that you were deceived and helped Yunin to lure me away. Inazuka-jo was startled, this seemed to have happened before. But he quickly shook his head and said quickly, it's Jiraiya-sama who is seriously injured, he's dying. What? Where is he now? Garashi was startled and hurriedly asked. At Outpost 7. Inazuka-jo quickly replied. Garashi put his right hand on Inazuka-jo's shoulder, hesitated for a moment, and made a hand seal to create a shadow clone, and then used the Flying Thunder God technique with Inazuka-jo. Everyone in the temporary hospital heaved a sigh of relief when they saw this scene. They couldn't help but feel touched. Garashi was really too reliable. Outpost number 7 was in chaos. Minato and Orochimaru besieged Reikage, and the other Jonins couldn't intervene. They could only harass him at the edge of the battle circle. In the distance, Jiraiya was leaning against a tree. There was a terrifying hole in his chest. Several ninjas with basic medical ninjutsu were performing emergency treatment on the side, while frantically tearing up medical scrolls. On the battlefield, Minato, who used to be gentle and modest, at this moment was like a volcano that was suppressing its anger, attacking the enemy in front of him with the fiercest offensive. Orochimaru, who had a feminine temperament, had a cold look in his eyes. He didn't say a word, but all his ninjutsu were extremely vicious. However, in the face of the joint attack of the two, Reikage didn't have the slightest fear. Ahahaha. Are you two trying to kill this old man with your eyes? This level of attack is only enough to scratch this old man's itch. He is indeed qualified to say such words. Although Minato is very mobile, the lethality of his ninjutsu is still too low. It's okay for ordinary ninjas, but for him, who has the strongest defense in the world, it's not enough. At least in his view, the joint attack of Minato and Orochimaru is far less of a threat to him than the joint attack of Jiraiya and Orochimaru. The other ninjas who were attacking in the distance couldn't help but curse. The dignified Reikage actually disguised himself as a spy. It's too shameless. Who would have thought that the real purpose of this wave of spies wasn't the medical scroll? Reikage coldly snorted, as long as we can win this war, this old man's face will be thrown to the ground for you to step on. Speaking of which, this old man has sent so many ninjas to you, now it's time for Yunnan to reap the harvest. Hearing this, Orochimaru and Minato's hearts were extremely bitter. They were indeed blinded by the good trend of the past 2 years, so they didn't realize the purpose of Yunnan. Or, they underestimated Reikage's decisiveness. Sending so many excellent ninjas to their death just to reduce their vigilance, and finally, he disguised himself as a spy and gave a fatal blow when they were being chased. At this time, there was a fluctuation in space. Garashi appeared in front of everyone's eyes holding Inuzuka's jaw. Woodleaf's side was naturally ecstatic. Garashi's medical ninjutsu is of course many times stronger than theirs. Although Reikage was a little worried, he didn't care too much. No one knew the power of the 4 weapons better than him. It's a powerful move that even the Hachibi was afraid of. Jiraiya is dead, even the 6 Paths sage can't stop him. Garashi quickly ran to Jiraiya's side, and the people around consciously made way. It's really serious. Garashi frowned. Jiraiya's chest was directly hollowed out, and there were arcs of electricity jumping around, which affected the body's recovery. Thunder Seal. With a dignified expression, Shueisha sucked away the lightning wrapped around Jiraiya's chest and sealed it. Don't force yourself, I know my own body best, this kind of injury is incurable. Jiraiya said self-deprecatingly, it's really embarrassing. I thought of many ways to end this, but I didn't expect that I would be killed because of carelessness. Fortunately, the other party is ahem. Reikage, it's not too embarrassing. Please help me apologize to Sensei, he used the telescope technique to peep, ahem. I'm the one who spread the news. There's also Orochimaru. I used to use his face to get caught when I was a wanton and unrestrained person. By the way, ahem, tell Tsunade. If you have something to say, tell Sensei yourself, and if you continue to be long-winded, you'll really die. Garashi said seriously. Jiraiya blinked, I can still be saved. Garashi said confidently, of course, it's not that I haven't made any progress in the past 2 years. With that said, Garashi unlocked the Een seal, and chakra poured out of his body. Then, Garashi covered Jiraiya's chest with his hands. In the next moment, an incomparably powerful yang-style chakra stimulated Jiraiya's cells to rapidly divide. Ninjutsu, creation rebirth, change. To be precise, it's the other version of creation rebirth. In fact, Tsunade was supposed to develop creation rebirth more than 10 years later, but under his inadvertent reminder, Tsunade advanced this process more than 10 years ahead of time. After all, she was decadent for more than 10 years in the original track, and her condition even declined a lot. In comparison, she's actually not weaker than she was in that time and space. Therefore, after Garashi's reminder, it's not surprising that Tsunade developed this ninjutsu more than 10 years ahead of time. And Garashi's work was to slightly improve this result, and he came up with this version of creation rebirth. The organs that were destroyed are reborn. After perceiving the changes in his body, Jiraiya was shocked. Garashi's medical ninjutsu has reached this level? But in the next moment, he recovered from the ecstasy, and his face was pale. Wait, I seem to have said a lot of things just now. Is it too late to pretend to be dead? Chapter 149. Seeing this, all the ninjas around were overjoyed. Great, Jiraiya, Sama doesn't have to die. Even this kind of injury can be cured. Garashi's medical ninjutsu is too strong. Their shouts almost caused the three people who were fully focused on the battle to get distracted and crash into each other. Minato subconsciously looked at Sensei from the corner of his eyes and found that the hole in Sensei's chest was constantly being filled. At the same time, Minato couldn't help but think, the most important thing in my life is that two people were saved by you. Garashi, how can I thank you? Orochimaru's cold eyes slightly eased, and he thought, oh, Jiraiya, this guy's luck is good. Raikage was so angry that he felt like he was going to explode. Why is it this kid again? How many times has he ruined my plans? Could it be that he is the destined nemesis of our Cloud Village? No, I can't delay any longer, this kid must die. Seeing Raikage's fierce eyes looking at Garashi, Jiraiya gradually recovered and said sarcastically, oh, are you going to kill us with your eyes? Seeing Jiraiya mocking him with the same words he said before, Raikage's mouth twitched. Humph. If it weren't for that kid, you would be dead now. Jiraiya laughed proudly, but we do. Are you jealous? I won't give it to you. Raikage was so angry that he was almost seriously injured by Orochimaru and Minato's fierce attacks. Barely calming down, Raikage said coldly. Humph. Psychological tactics are good. Is that so? Then I will continue. Jiraiya smiled. Old Raikage, are you ready to die? When I recover, it will be 3 against. No, it will be 4 against 1. Raikage's face didn't change. You can recover is indeed beyond this old man's expectation, but at most, it will just be a normal battle. Seeing Raikage so calm, everyone's expression changed. Not only you, but other Yunin ninjas are also acting? Otherwise, do you think this old man will be so reckless? While talking, there was a faint sound of fighting in the distance. Raikage-sama, we are coming. Old man, you are not dead yet, right? Raikage, who was looking at everyone, almost choked when he heard A's voice. Bastard, I will not die. Raikage's voice pointed A's direction, and soon, A and B rushed together. Arriving at the 7th outpost, Raikage, to look at, Raikage, he couldn't help but look at his father. Old man, your strategy is not so good. Raikage was exasperated. Bastard. If it wasn't for Shimizu Azushi's medical ninjutsu, Jiraiya would have died under my Shihanjutsu. S's, A's? This bastard's strength is getting stronger and stronger. A was shocked, but at the same time, he couldn't help but murmur, didn't my operation 2 years ago fail because of him? In comparison, our intelligence seems to be the same. Well, you are indeed my old man. You, Killer B, who recovered from his injury, made a gesture and said, Big brother, if you don't shut your mouth now, you will definitely get your legs broken. At this time, Yunin, who was barely able to keep up, hurriedly shouted, Ai-sama, Bai-sama, hurry up and kill them while they are still healing. Unexpectedly, A patted him on the shoulder and said in a heavy tone, you newcomers really haven't suffered enough losses. Remember, when you fight with Shimizu Garashi, you must position yourself as the one with intelligence disadvantage, and all the possible actions that you can take advantage of may be his plot. A newcomer couldn't help but ask, do you think I am mentally retarded? After saying that, he knew that he shouldn't have said that. Sorry, I am not. Unexpectedly, AI nodded in agreement. Very good, you've already grasped the trick. At this time, Garashi also finished his treatment and stood up, and said sincerely, actually, I really didn't prepare anything this time. In this regard, A just looked at him with disdain. Jiraiya's eyes were full of strange color. What did you do to them? Garashi shook his head slightly. I just used their character to set a few traps. A few traps, that's all. A's face was full of grief and indignation. Last time, you pretended to be seriously injured in the Battle of the Gale Valley, and as soon as I chased after you, I was beaten by hundreds of ninjas, and if the reinforcements didn't come quickly, I would have died. Last time, the person who used genjutsu to induce me said that he found a mysterious healing lake, and it took me a lot of manpower and material resources to find it, and the result was your slug body fluid. Last time, seeing A opened his mouth to vent his grievances, Reikage couldn't help but scold with a black face, "Enough, don't let them laugh at us." Killer B looked at his brother with great sympathy. It seems that in the 2 years he was away, his brother had a hard time. Jiraiya moved his hands and feet. "Let's follow the old rules, Minato, you and Garashi deal with the two of them, let me repay the hospitality of Reikage." A's face was also dignified. "B, do you still remember how to cooperate?" Killer B directly entered the half-tailed beast mode. "Idiot brother, don't underestimate me." Nyo Reikage. Garashi and Minato were on guard, and then they found that the two ninjas were attacking Jiraiya one after the other. Jiraiya, who was fighting with Reikage, was shocked. What's the situation? Why are all three of them attacking him? Even if it's him, it's impossible to deal with Reikage's attack at the same time. Fortunately, someone who didn't have a tacit understanding with him subconsciously used Snake Hand to push him away. However, the three ninjas didn't stop for a moment and once again attacked Jiraiya. Seeing this, Garashi and the others secretly thought, this is troublesome. Obviously, these three ninjas are relying on their high defense and blood. They intend to kill one of them at the cost of a certain injury. Garashi and Minato are too difficult to catch, and their attacks are relatively weak, so naturally, they are not their first target. As for Orochimaru and Jiraiya, of course, the injured Jiraiya seems to be easier to bully. Jiraiya fled under the joint attack of the three ninjas, and Garashi and the other two followed closely behind, and from time to time, they used Flying Thunder God technique to help Jiraiya escape from danger. For a while, the scene was extremely chaotic. Damn it, these three bastards are treating me like a soft persimmon. Jiraiya was depressed. He ran all the way and finally found an opportunity to use summoning jutsu. In the next moment, the toad boss who occupied half of the forest appeared in everyone's sight. "Jiraiya, you're in a lot of trouble." Chapter 150. Toad boss, be careful, these three fellows are very strong. Jiraiya reminded. "I don't need you to tell me." Gamabunta's tone was unfriendly. Seeing Gamabunta's appearance, Reikage and the other two felt a headache. Naturally, it's not that they can't deal with a summoned beast, but the problem is that with this giant summoned beast's protection, it won't be easy for them to kill Jiraiya quickly. "Leave this big fellow to me." Killer B exclaimed and directly transformed into his complete form. Gamabunta took a deep breath and cursed, "Why is there a monster like the Hachibi?" Garashi and the other two looked at each other, and in the next moment, another three giant summoned beasts were summoned. Toad Jian, all snakes, big slug. Yoho, big brother is here too. I knew it wouldn't be a good thing to be summoned by you, Orochimaru. Is the enemy this time the Hachibi? So scary. Suddenly seeing four summoned beasts that were not inferior to him, the Hachibi couldn't help but complain, "You bastard, you really know how to find trouble for me." Very quickly, the five giant beasts started fighting. The earth trembled, trees flew, and the originally dense forest became bald in an instant. Seeing the battle between the four summoned beasts and the Hachibi, the Jonins on both sides were stunned. What kind of monsters are these? Is it a battle of legends? We are all Jonins, why is the gap between us so big? The gap between humans is really bigger than a human and a dog. On the other side of the battlefield, the battle strength ratio became 4-2, which seemed to be advantageous for Garashi and the others. But in reality, Jiraiya and Orochimaru also relied on their summoned beasts to be able to fight evenly with Reikage. With such a comparison, both sides were back to the same starting line. Even Garashi couldn't help but sigh. Reikage was really too strong, as expected of the ruthless person who fought against the Hachibi alone. Damn it, don't treat this toad like a sage. Jiraiya clasped his hands and entered standby mode. Orochimaru, save me. Yeah, sage mode. Minato's expression was solemn. Although I'm not proficient in immortal arts, this is the only way to increase my attack power. He closed his eyes symbolically, and then entered sage mode in a second. Jiraiya let out a strange cry. Minato, how are you so fast? Minato smiled bitterly. Because I don't have a lot of chakra, I don't have many chakra techniques to refine. Therefore, I specially developed a one-time use sage mode. Jiraiya was stunned when he heard this. This could be developed? Speaking of which, Garashi was able to comprehend natural energy in one try, while Minato was able to enter immortal mode in 1 second. Why did it feel like their cultivation journey was completely different from the difficulties he had experienced? The two saw that Jiraiya was preparing a big move, so their attacks became more and more violent. Lightning evasion, black spot difference. A bolt of black lightning in the shape of a leopard pounced towards Jiraiya, accompanied by a thunderous roar. Oh no, it's Raikage's unique black lightning. Jiraiya suddenly felt bad. This black lightning would make the person who was hit unable to move, and more importantly, this black lightning would spread in 2 stages. He couldn't make a seal with his hands, and his feet were too slow to make a seal, so it was difficult for him to avoid the second attack of the black lightning. Sure enough, after Jiraiya easily dodged the black lightning, the leopard exploded, and the spreading lightning jumped on his body. In just a moment, Jiraiya felt that he lost control of his body. At this critical moment, Minato teleported in front of Jiraiya and used his hand to meet the black lightning. Senjutsu, Odama Rasengan. This wasn't the first time Raikage saw this move, so he thought that it wouldn't be a big problem for him to take it head-on. Then he directly used Yanban thrust to hit the energy ball. However, the power of Senjutsu mixed with natural energy was far more powerful than the normal version of Odama Rasengan. Even Raikage was caught off guard and was blown away by this terrifying energy fluctuation. Boom! Like a small meteorite impact, Raikage smashed into the ground, making the earth tremble. But before they could celebrate, Raikage jumped out of the pit, spitting out a big mouthful of blood, and then looked at the opposite side with fear. You can let this old man taste the taste of injury again after so many years. Raikage was afraid, and Garashi was even more speechless. Odama Rasengan, which could almost collapse a small mountain, made him spit out blood. Jiraiya shouted, "Good job, Minato, find a way to hit him again." Minato was helpless. Under normal circumstances, he should have 3 shots of Odama Rasengan chakra, but the cost of entering Sage mode is at least 1/3 of the chakra. In other words, he only has 1 shot left, and after using it, he will have to exit Sage mode, and his eye lines will disappear. However, he also understood what his teacher meant. Fake Raikage. Thinking of this, Minato modestly said, "Raikage's strength is too strong, sensei, let's wait until you and Garashi enter Sage mode, then the 3 of us can join hands to kill him." Raikage's mouth twitched. What kind of joke is this? 3 shots of that level of attack, even he can't stand it. Although Shimizu Garashi didn't show any signs of transformation, but he was right about one thing, he absolutely can't underestimate this little devil. Moreover, he can see that Woodleaf's ninjas are all liars. Even this seemingly honest Minato is the same, saying that he is not good at Sage mode, and slapping him in the face with Sage mode. Just when he was hesitating, Jiraiya finally finished summoning the 2 Sage mode. Little Jiraiya, why is your place in a mess? Bunta and Ken are also here, and there are 2 other families, even the Hachibi monster is here. Compared to Raikage and obviously the battle between the tailed beasts and the summoned beasts attracted the attention of the 2 Sage mode. Boss, big sister, this time the enemy is very troublesome, I will have to trouble you again. Fukasaku kindly said, "Of course, this is no problem, but you don't seem to be in a good state right now?" "It's okay, I can still hold on." Orochimaru sinisterly smiled, "It seems that it is time for us to counterattack." Although he already has the intention to retreat, Raikage still stubbornly said, "Humph. Don't think that you will win." Sage mode, Gomen. Hidden Shadow Multiple Snake Hand. Super Jade Rasengan. Raiton, Black Spot. Lightning Abuse Level. All kinds of powerful ninjutsu were thrown out like chakra. For a moment, the momentum of their battle even overshadowed the battle between the tailed beasts and the summoned beasts. Just when the battle was getting more and more chaotic, Tsutai anxiously ran over and shouted. Reikage-sama, not good. Kirin sent people to sneak attack the village. What? Damn Kirin bastard. Reikage was furious. After a moment of hesitation, he shouted, retreat. Jiraiya gloated and laughed. Hey, who asked you to sneak attack? Now your home is gone, right? And, isn't it a bit too late to leave now? But just when Jiraiya was feeling sore, Yamanaka Kaze hurriedly ran over and shouted, Orochimaru-sama, Jiraiya-sama, many of our camps have been attacked by Kirin, the front line is requesting support. Seeing Jiraiya's smile frozen on his face, Reikage sneered, are you sure you want to stop us here? Orochimaru squinted and said, let's stop here today. It is not good for either side to continue fighting. Chapter 151. Camp 33. Water Release, Water Wave. Earth Release, Earth Wall. Kirin has a large number of people, so the Woodleaf ninjas in the camp can only frequently use Earth Wall for defense. The Kirin ninjas are not in a hurry, they know that Yunin and Woodleaf are fighting. In the absence of reinforcements, they are naturally happy to use this method to squeeze the opponent's chakra dry. After all, if they really push too hard, they may lose a lot of people. At this moment, in the defensive circle of the Earth Wall. Looking at the constantly shaking stone wall, it seems that it will collapse at any time. Everyone in the camp is desperate. Even if the earth release can restrain the water release, the number gap between the two sides is still too big. Moreover, the earth wall is a B-class ninjutsu. It is not easy to practice, not to mention, there are only 6 or 7 of them who have earth attribute chakra. Being able to hold on until now is already the limit. Damn, I will fight with these bastards. Shunion, don't be impulsive. Maybe the reinforcements will arrive soon. If there is really reinforcements, this group of Kirin ninjas can't be so relaxed. Shunion clenched his fist, recognized the reality, the main camp must be too busy to take care of themselves. The only thing we can do now is to kill as many enemies as we can. Listening to Shunion, the Chunin who stopped him at the beginning laughed at himself. I didn't expect that I can't see things as clearly as you are right, we can't have any more illusions. The others also laughed. Anyway, our earth wall can't hold on any longer. Then get ready, don't let this group of Kirigakure bastards underestimate Konoha's ninjas. At the moment when the stone wall collapsed, a group of Woodleaf ninjas in the camp rushed out with the determination to die. Fire Release, Great Fireball Technique. Woodleaf Tornado. Compared to the Woodleaf ninjas who have been fighting for 2 years, Kirin ninjas are a bit slow. In the beginning, there were even many people who were unable to react in time, allowing Woodleaf to gain the upper hand. Unfortunately, after they got used to it a little, the situation quickly reversed. Damn it, is this all you can do? Shunion, who was already able to activate Tomo, had a look of unwillingness in his eyes. If it was Garashi, this kind of situation wouldn't be a problem for him at all. The Kirin ninjas were also ashamed and angry. They had the absolute advantage, but they were almost turned around. This was simply a great humiliation. Stop struggling. There won't be any reinforcements coming to save you. To tell you the truth, Yunin attacked your main camp tonight. They are busy fighting each other right now. In this war, Kirin is the biggest winner. Other than venting his frustrations, trash-talking could also disturb the other party's mentality. Sure enough, after being provoked by them, Woodleaf's ninjas' mentality was somewhat unbalanced, and the disadvantage became even bigger. But at this moment, a cold voice sounded. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Earth Release, Swamp of the Underworld. Although it was only a B-class ninjutsu, when it was used by Garashi, it instantly created a large swamp, and many Kirin ninjas were swallowed before they could react. Looking in the direction of the voice, the Woodleaf ninjas were ecstatic. Great, it's Jounin Shueisha. With Garashi, Sama, we will win. Although there was only one person, in their view, Garashi alone could fight against hundreds of allied forces. What? Shimizu Garashi. Damn it, how did he come so fast? A person's name, a tree's shadow. Even if they didn't participate in the war before, these Kirin ninjas have heard of Garashi's name. However, this was their first time participating in the war, and they didn't have the rule of giving up the mission like Yunin did. So, even if they were a little nervous, they still braced themselves. Don't be afraid, no matter how strong this guy is, he is only one person. 70 against 1, there is no reason for us to lose. Let them see, we Kirin ninjas are not cowards like Yunin. Facing the clamor of these Kirin ninjas, Garashi was indifferent, and calmly said to himself, after the war, I still have to reinforce other camps, chakra has to be used sparingly, I'll use Flying Thunder God to kill the Jonin, and I'll use Taijutsu to deal with the other ninjas. In terms of strength, he was actually not much worse than A and Killer B. But their positions were different, so their performance was completely different. The two of them could shuttle back and forth in an ordinary battle formation, and the weaker ninjas couldn't even break through their defense. They were not afraid of ordinary Jonin, but it was not so easy to kill them. But for Garashi, his endurance was not as strong as the two of them, but with the combination of Genjutsu and Flying Thunder God, he could easily crush the weaker ninjas, even if the overall strength of a Jonin was not up to standard. Seeing that Garashi seemed to be a little absent-minded, a group of Kirin ninjas also became bolder, and after exchanging glances, they directly cooperated with each other to use multiple ninjutsu. Water release, multiple water dragon technique. Garashi naturally wasn't absent-minded. At the first time on the field, he quietly used chakra to control several small shurikens to move in certain directions. Then, when these powerful water dragon attacks came, Garashi raised his right hand and threw a large number of shurikens in the direction of Kirin. These Kirin ninjas obviously also heard of his Flying Thunder God, and after seeing these shurikens, they all shouted nervously. Quickly shoot down those shurikens. Don't leave any coordinates for him. While their attention was attracted by these shurikens, Garashi instantly teleported to the side of a strong person he perceived, and the genjutsu he prepared in advance was just in time to complete the last hand seal. Blood splashed, the Kirin ninja didn't even see the face of the enemy and fell into eternal darkness. Without any pause, Garashi used Flying Thunder God to teleport to the side of another person. The second lucky ninja was obviously luckier, and after seeing the splashing blood, he realized that there was a problem. Unfortunately, his hasty reaction couldn't change anything, and under Garashi's genjutsu, he barely struggled a few times, and then his throat was cut. At this time, a group of Kirin ninjas exclaimed, Yoshinobu Jonin, Shiranori Jonin. How is this possible? The only 2 Jonins in our team were killed just like that? It was less than 3 seconds, right? We will be killed if we stay here. No wonder their reaction was so intense. Garashi's action of killing 2 Jonins was too shocking. So strong. Shunyan's eyes were dull, those were Jonins. At this moment, he even began to suspect that the scenes in his memory of fighting back and forth with Garashi were not his imagination, right? The rest of the Woodleaf ninjas were so excited that their faces were flushed. As expected of Yunin's hero on the battlefield, this kind of clean and neat killing was too exciting. After crushing the 2 Jonins with absolute advantage, the Kirin ninjas, who were new to the battlefield, directly collapsed, and almost 1/3 of the ninjas fled. Seeing this, Shushi breathed a sigh of relief. Although his taijutsu was not bad, he couldn't directly use it like Yunin's brothers, so this kind of situation was the most suitable for him to use taijutsu. The other Woodleaf ninjas also reacted and quickly counterattacked. Soon, after leaving behind 30 or 40 corpses, the rest of the Kirin ninjas barely escaped. A group of Woodleaf ninjas ran excitedly, Garashi, Sama. This time, Garashi shook his head slightly. I'm sorry, I have to go to the next camp now. As soon as his voice fell, Garashi disappeared directly. Regarding Garashi's behavior, of course, no one was dissatisfied, but they were full of admiration. Garashi, Sama is really working hard. Yes, I heard from Kiran that they should have just finished a big battle. By the way, Shunian, I heard that you and Garashi-sama are good friends. Can you tell us more about Garashi-sama? Shunian recalled the past with a sigh. All of this started from the battle between Garashi and me. Overnight, Garashi and Minato went to dozens of camps and saved hundreds of ninjas, and the reputation of both of them ushered in a big rise. Although Kiran's raid this time achieved a lot of results, but at the same time, the name of Woodleaf Twin Stars has become a nightmare for many ninjas in the village. Chapter 152. In the village of Kawa. The Kirin ninjas here were divided into two extremes. One side was happy, and the other side was depressed, as if they were in two different worlds. Yesterday was so cool, I killed 7 people in Yunnan. I was so miserable, I was chased by Woodleaf's ninjas all night. That's right. I've been unhappy with those guys for a long time. I was miserable. First, I was chased by Shimizu Garashi, and when I finally escaped, I met Minato who was chasing another team. However, Yunnan is really rich, the resources we robbed from them are enough for us to use for a few months. Oh, we have nothing, not to mention the explosive tags, we even ate the soldier food pills. In such a noisy voice, the two sides exchanged strange looks. It seems that the one who was miserable was the one who attacked Woodleaf last night. We only achieved this level of results? The Mizukage was very dissatisfied when he heard the report, but he couldn't help it, the time was too difficult to grasp. If we start the war early, Woodleaf and Yunnan may not fight yet. If we declare the war later, maybe they will finish the war. Moreover, the war can't be started easily, and it takes time for them to gather and move. In short, it's too difficult for him to be a war micromaster. The Jonin wearing a dog mask said, Woodleaf's loss on the battlefield is entirely because of Minato and Shimizu Garashi. Their support is too fast, and it only takes a few minutes to reverse the war. Relatively speaking, Yunnan's battlefield is much easier. Shimizu Garashi. The Mizukage's eyes were full of fear. This kid was promoted to Chunin 2 years ago, and now he can control a war. This speed of growth is really scary. The Jonin couldn't help but say, are all Yunnan's ninjas idiots? They let such a genius grow up. Cat nodded in agreement. If it were our Kirin, we wouldn't have given him the chance to grow. The Mizukage shook his head slightly. With that kid's strength and temperament, it's not easy to kill him. At this time, the Jonin with the devil mask who hasn't spoken asked with some worry, Mizukage-sama, isn't it too radical to declare war on Woodleaf and Yunnan? Hearing the meaning of his words, the Mizukage chuckled. Are you worried that they will abandon their hatred and join forces to deal with us? Yes, this subordinate is indeed worried. Remember, Kirin is far away from home. This is our limitation, but it is also our biggest advantage. The Mizukage analyzed. Unlike the other 4 families, we have no use for territory. This also means that compared to those fellows who are thinking of ways to seize territory and expand their territory, our threat of occasionally going ashore to rob them will always be secondary. Besides, how can they retaliate? If we lose, we can just go back to the Water Nation. Would they dare to chase us to the Water Nation? If that's the case, I will laugh out loud. It's not that he looks down on these land countries, but if it really becomes a naval war, he dares to fight 4 people like Woodleaf. Moreover, even if Woodleaf and Yunnan have the determination to go on an expedition, they have to reach a non-aggression agreement with the other side. But is this possible? After 2 years of war, Woodleaf and Yunnan have a deep hatred for each other. Even if one of them says that they won't retaliate, the other side will absolutely not gamble on the enemy's bottom line. In short, Kirin is as stable as an old dog. Listening to his analysis, the rest of the Jonins showed a look of conviction. Indeed, the previous 2 wars have proved it. No matter how much they do in Kirin, the flames of war will not be attracted to them. At this time, a Kirin Jonin came over with a strange expression. Mizukage-sama, there is a ninja who claims to be Yunnan's spy who wants to meet you. The Mizukage was quite amused. Meet me? Oh, Rakage, that guy shouldn't send his men to die just to scold me, right? After thinking for a moment, the Mizukage said. Let him come over. At 10:00 in the morning, Garashi got up from the bed with a tired face. Even if it's him, after unlocking the Een seal and fighting for a whole night, and then fighting the fire for a whole night, he was a little tired. Opening the tent's curtain, the dazzling sunlight shone, making Garashi subconsciously squint his eyes. Looking around, almost everyone in the camp was injured, and their faces were also full of fatigue. However, they didn't have too much sadness. In the 2 years of war, they have experienced too many deaths. In this case, it's good to be alive. There is also one point, that is, the comparison with Yunin. Perhaps in order to appease everyone's mood, Orochimaru accidentally leaked the information after receiving Yunin's information. Sure enough, after knowing that the culprit of yesterday's war was much worse than them, everyone's mood instantly became happy. You have suffered retribution for your sneak attack. However, they also know who is the one responsible for this result. Therefore, after seeing Garashi appear, everyone excitedly greeted him. Garashi, why did you get up so quickly? Don't you want to rest for a while? Garashi-sama, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, we would have died yesterday. Garashi responded one by one, and when he encountered serious injuries, he took the initiative to treat them. After another wave of reputation points, Shushi finally arrived at Minato's tent. Minato-dage, are you there? Garashi, please come in. Garashi walked into the tent and saw Minato's haggard face, obviously worse than him. After all, he doesn't have the Een seal's ability. Seeing Garashi, Minato couldn't help but laugh. It seems that both of us have been squeezed dry. This feeling of hollowing out is not good, right? However, it's not bad to get used to it in advance. Garashi's face was blank. Don't tell me that he's driving a car. He's still a child. After livening up the atmosphere, Minato stopped smiling and asked, Garashi, does Orochimaru-sama have another mission? It's my own business. Garashi gently shook his head, then immediately said seriously, Minato-dage, I would like to ask you how to use your one-time use sage mode. Of course, no problem. Minato didn't hesitate at all, on the contrary, he was very happy to be able to help Garashi. Seeing this, Garashi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Minato-dage was indeed the number one tool in his sequence, he was too reliable. At this moment, Jiraiya sneaked in. Minato was puzzled. Sensei, what are you doing? Ahem, when I was passing by, I happened to hear your conversation. Jiraiya pretended to cough twice, then said righteously, immortal techniques are very strict and dangerous cultivation, the risk of rashly developing it is very high, it's better to let me listen by the side, I can guide you at critical moments. Chapter 153. Naturally, Minato didn't think too much about it. He happily agreed. That's great. I was worried that this mode would lead Shushi in the wrong direction. Now, with Sensei around, there won't be any problem. Jiraiya smirked twice. Of course, Sensei is Toad Sage Jiraiya, known as Sannin. Calming down, Minato said seriously, before explaining the method, I have to tell you about the flaws of this mode. Regarding this, the two were not surprised. If there are advantages, there will naturally be disadvantages. Because the refining time is very short, the amount of chakra refined at one time is not much, and the loss during refining is very serious. Take me for example, the one-time refinement of chakra can only be used 3 times at most. Counting the loss, there are only 2 times left. Minato said helplessly, in fact, this mode is not very useful to me. Compared to the immortal technique, the Flying Thunder God technique is more suitable for me. For ordinary enemies, the Flying Thunder God technique with the Rasengan is enough. But for powerful enemies like the Rakage or Tailed Beasts, 2 immortal techniques are not enough. So after I developed it, I rarely use this mode. Jiraiya looked dignified. Indeed, the loss of 1/3 of chakra was too high. Garashi's eyes were bright. For him, the greatest use of this mode was in cooperation with the 8 inner hidden gates. Although his talent and physical skills was indeed ordinary, he had practiced the 8 inner hidden gates several years earlier than Guy. He could also use the opportunity to heal Dai's internal injuries to correct his own cultivation. So, he could also open the 5th gate. As for why he didn't use it, on one hand, it was because the first 3 gates of the 8 inner hidden gates were a safe zone. There was a certain risk if he exceeded it. On the other hand, the 5th gate couldn't be combined with the immortal mode. Opening the 8 inner hidden gates would make the chakra in the body irritable. This would conflict with the profound meaning of immortal mode. Of course, this didn't mean that it was absolutely impossible. Just like a person who could barely swing a 100-gene sledgehammer, a person who could swing a 30-gene sledgehammer could easily swing it. The 8 inner hidden gates was the same. The first 3 gates were the limit of his complete control. Any more and he wouldn't be able to maintain Sage Mode. The power of Sage Mode plus the first 3 gates was about the same as the 5th gate, but the damage was smaller and the duration was longer. In comparison, he was too lazy to open the 5th gate. The advantage of using Sage Mode was that he could enter and exit in an instant. In an instant, he could coordinate with 5th gate to deal maximum damage. In the next moment, it didn't matter if he exited Sage Mode. The only problem was... Garashi raised his head and asked, "Brother Minato, can this one-time Sage Mode be used continuously?" He wasn't worried about chakra's consumption. After all, using these 2 modes meant that he had to fight with his life on the line. At that time, he wouldn't have the time to think so much. Continuous use? Minato blinked and muttered, "Actually, I haven't tried to use it continuously because this mode is quite a burden on the body. However, a ninja like you, Garashi, who has practiced taijutsu, your physique is much stronger than mine. Maybe you can use it 2 or 3 times." Jiraiya said helplessly, "It's really a one-time Sage Mode, but sometimes it might have a miraculous effect." After talking about the limitations of this mode, Minato began to explain the key points and the process in detail. 2 hours later. Garashi nodded thoughtfully, "I understand." The next moment, he instantly entered the one-time Sage Mode. Jiraiya was dumbfounded. What's going on? He didn't understand anything. How did you know? Minato smiled embarrassedly. It's very simple, right? In fact, it's just a small trick that I casually thought of when I was bored. Garashi shook his head and said, although the method is very simple, it's already very powerful to be able to develop this technique. Seeing the 2 of them talking so lightly, Jiraiya almost doubted his life. Is he too stupid, or are these 2 guys not human at all? At this time, Minato thought of someone who was forgotten and quickly asked, "By the way, Sensei, do you have any suggestions?" "I suggest you say it again." Although he wanted to say this in his heart, out of the dignity of a teacher, Jiraiya reluctantly squeezed out a smile. Your Sage Mode is quite creative." "Not bad, it has some of the style of Sensei." Minato was overjoyed. "Great, I was worried that this mode was too simple and would be criticized by Sensei for not taking the right path." Jiraiya covered his chest with a painful expression. No, if he stayed here, he would be hurt by these 2 guys learning God's key. "Not bad, keep up the good work." With 2 perfunctory words of encouragement, Jiraiya stumbled out. Garashi didn't care about him and just continued to discuss the details with Minato. 3:00 in the afternoon. The 2 who were still in the academic discussion were called out by Yamanaka Kurikase. "I'm really sorry, Orochimaru Sama asked the 2 of you to go to the conference room." Even Yamanaka Kurikase was embarrassed to say this. The 2 of them were busy all night and didn't rest for long before they were called again. Even animals can't be used like this. However, he could understand Orochimaru Sama's idea. Who told them to be so handy? Garashi and Minato didn't care. After all, they all have a heart dedicated to Woodleaf. In the conference room. In addition to Orochimaru and Jiraiya, the rest of the Jonins were already in place. Obviously, it was a very formal meeting. Seeing that everyone was here, Orochimaru said, "The current situation has become a 3-way battle, but don't have any illusions about the enemy. It's unrealistic to expect Yunin and Kirin to fight to the death. According to the information obtained by the spy, Reikage decided to personally take people to find the Mizukage for revenge, but at the same time, they have signs of attacking us. In this regard, no one was surprised. The first two wars were also like this. At first, Woodleaf was fighting 3 and 1 was fighting 4, but after a while, the other villages started fighting among themselves. Even Rock Crypsis and Kirin took advantage of Yunin's battle with Woodleaf to attack Woodleaf. After the sneak attack, they fought over the loot. Even the second Suchikage and the second Mizukage died in that battle. With this precedent, they won't be surprised if the other villages do anything. After assigning the tasks one by one, Orochimaru encouraged them again. The current situation is difficult, everyone persevere, Sensei will soon come to support us. As soon as his voice fell, there was a commotion. What? Naruto, Sama. But the safety of the village, unlike Yunin, Woodleaf is located in the center of the 4 great ninja villages, and there are many enemies, and there is the danger of a sneak attack at any time. Unless the war is at the most critical moment, Naruto usually stays in the village to guard the village. Of course, there are exceptions. That is Mito-sama as the former Kyuubi Jinchuriki to guard Woodleaf. Thinking of this, Minato couldn't help but ask, Orochimaru, Sama, Shina Kushina, she. Orochimaru nodded with a smile. Sensei believes that she can bear this heavy responsibility. Minato's heart was filled with warmth. Shina Kushina said, we will live up to the trust of the village. Garashi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. When he becomes Naruto in the future, he must let Sandaime be the administrative director of the school. Chapter 154. On the way to the country of Kawanishi. Garashi and his special operations team were running through the forest in a ninja run posture. Garashi, I heard that you killed 11 Kirin's Jonin early this morning? Asuma turned his head and asked excitedly. It's only today that I can achieve such a result. When Kirin reacts, they will most likely let their Jonins act together. As long as 3 Jonin stand together at all times, it will be difficult for my strategy to work. Garashi said modestly. Anyway, Kirin must be heartbroken right now. Asuma said with a gloating smile, 11 Jonins, even our Woodleaf can't afford this price. Mizuki flattered without any bottom line, it's just a piece of gravel, not even half as good as Garashi. If this kind of words were said in other places, perhaps some people would doubt it, but the people in the team not only didn't have any disgust, but instead they all nodded with admiration and respect. Most of them were already loyal fans of Garashi when they were still in school. After coming to the battlefield, they can hear Garashi creating new legends almost every day, coupled with Garashi's meticulous care for them, their good impression of him has turned into worship. Garashi shook his head slightly. Actually, I'm just, at this time, a team of Kirin's ninjas appeared in front of everyone's field of vision. After seeing Mizuki and the others, the team of Kirin's ninjas sped up excitedly. It turned out to be Woodleaf's kid. It's a big deal. Hey, Konoha is in such a difficult situation that even children have to be sent to the battlefield? Then they saw Garashi, who was talking, turn his head, and in an instant, 3 or 4 Kirin's ninjas screamed as if they saw a ghost. Chin, Shimizu Garashi. It's him, the ghost of assassination in the fog of time and space. Hearing these voices, the rest of the Kirin's ninjas trembled and almost fell from the tree. If there were still many people who thought that Cloud Village was exaggerating before, after today, no matter how arrogant they were, they wouldn't have such thoughts anymore. Killing 11 Jonins in one night, this kind of record is simply breaking their courage. Damn it, we hit the jackpot on the first day. This guy is not someone we can deal with. Fortunately, Kirin has urgently issued a rule that if they see Woodleaf's Gemini, they can give up the mission. So they hurriedly turned around and ran without thinking. Seeing Garashi's name scared away Kirin's, the admiration in their eyes became more and more. Garashi, leave the task of chasing them. Don't worry, we. Garashi didn't stop them. Those who can be selected by him are at least geniuses in the eyes of ordinary people. Although they are young, their strength is not weak. The most important thing is that this team of Kirin's ninjas doesn't seem to have any decent strength. As he guessed before, if the Jonins are grouped together, it means that it will be difficult for the other teams to be assigned a Jonin. Soon, everyone came back from the chase. It's really boring, there isn't even a Jonin in these Kirin's team? Asma sighed, seeing Garashi kill 11 Jonins in one night. He also wanted to test his strength. Jonin and Jonin can't be lumped together. Mizuki squinted his eyes. If you encounter a strong Jonin like Garashi and challenge him rashly, you won't even know how you died. Huh, how strong can Kirin's Jonin be? You can't encounter their 7 ninja swordsmen, right? Asma said indifferently. Suddenly, there was a burst of laughter that sounded like the wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves. Hee hee, I heard you want to challenge us. Then I will fulfill your wish. The next moment, 7 oddly shaped fellows appeared on the surrounding trees. Just a glance, Woodleaf and the others were terrified. People may be mistaken, but the iconic ninja sword will not. What? It turned out to be Kirin's 7 ninja swordsmen. Damn, this retribution came too fast. Asma, use your mouth to curse them. Asma's face turned purple. What's the situation? He just said it casually. You know, Kirin's 7 ninja swordsmen are the same as Woodleaf's Sannin. The current situation is equivalent to Kirin's Sannin. Of course, if you really want to talk about the difference, it's probably the difference between Shichibukai and the 3 admirals. Even so, such a lineup is definitely not something they can deal with. Garashi did not hesitate. He took out a kunai and directly crushed it with a strange force. The 7 ninja swordsmen did not stop him, they just looked at him with a smile. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds passed. There was no movement around. Kurosakura played with his sword and smiled. Are you waiting for Namikaze Minato's support? Unfortunately, he doesn't have time to save people now. Raiga's voice was indifferent. He should be playing hide-and-seek with Yunin's brothers now. Yunin? Garashi asked in a deep voice. Yesterday was a play between you and Yunin? Kurosakura waved his hand again and again. No, of course the war is real, otherwise, I can't fool you. Pipa Shirzang nodded. By the way, it's true that Reikage is looking for Mizukage-sama for revenge. However, this doesn't prevent us from working together to eliminate threats, because you are too dangerous. That's right, Wooly said, but this doesn't prevent us from working together to eliminate threats because you are too dangerous. Watermelon Mountain Pufferfish grinned. To make the 7 of us work together, this is the treatment of a Kage village. How did it become me? Garashi subconsciously looked at Metke. Metke, who was nervous, wondered, Senpai, what's the matter? Garashi shook his head slightly. Nothing, you should be careful, the enemy this time is different from before. At this time, you still have the mind to care about others. Should I say that you are worthy of Woodleaf's light? It's a pity that this ray of light will soon fall. Don't say that, maybe our Woodleaf's light will leave his companions and run away. Hearing the opposite side's provocation, Mizuki quickly said, Garashi, don't worry about us, quickly use the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to leave. Although the rest of the people were afraid, they also shouted, yes, Garashi, remember to avenge us. Are these people not afraid of death? Seeing that things were getting out of control, Shiba quickly said, hey, don't give up so early, struggle a little, maybe you can use the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to take away a few of them. A magical scene appeared. In order to prevent Garashi from escaping alone, Kirin, as an enemy, encouraged him. Yes, maybe you can defeat us with a little effort. We are just ordinary Jonins, easy to kill. Aren't you a hero? Heroes create miracles. Chapter 155. Oh, I'm really underestimated. Garashi smiled in his heart. If the opponent was Woodleaf's Sannin, he would certainly turn around and leave, but if it was the 7 legendary swordsmen, it was not completely impossible. Especially, in the case of a certain sun peeping at him. Ha! Fortunately, I made it in time. With a low shout, a green lightning ran from the distance, and then jumped and landed right in front of Garashi and the others. Senior Mato Dai. Dad. Garashi, Guy, you guys run, I'll buy you time. Mato Dai protected everyone behind him and looked at the 7 legendary swordsmen with a dignified look. Hearing Garashi call the other party senior and not showing the slightest timidity in front of them, the 7 people who were originally lazy also looked at him seriously. Could this guy be Woodleaf's hidden expert? Guy froze for a moment and shouted, "What are you talking about, Dad? You're just a genin." Although Garashi said that his father's body has a powerful strength not inferior to the Sannin, but in this situation, even the Sannin can't deal with it. The most important point is that as a genin, his father has almost no fighting experience. Even if he has a powerful strength, it is impossible for him to use it normally. It would be good if he can use 10% of his strength. Hearing Guy's shout, the 7 people opposite him laughed until tears flowed out. Huh, genin, are you here to be funny? It turned out to be a Woodleaf genin, I'm scared to death. If it was a young genin, they may have to worry about encountering a monster like Shimizu Garashi, but this guy looks like he is 30 or 40 years old. If he is a genin at this age, it can only mean that he is a waste. Mato Dai was not angry. He has experienced too much ridicule and humiliation. If he got angry every time, he would have died long ago. Don't worry, I have the death gate of Hashiman Tanku. Now, it is time for me to practice my own ninja way. Guy resisted letting his tears flow out. He also practiced the Hashiman Tanku, so he naturally understood his father's plan, and also knew what would happen if he exceeded the limit. At this moment, Garashi suddenly interrupted, "Senior Dai, please wait a moment, the situation is not bad enough to open all 8 gates." Mato Dai was startled, and honestly said, "If only 7 gates are opened, I am not their opponent." Garashi slightly shook his head, "In short, let's wait first." Genjutsu, dark movement. Garashi's hand seals was too fast, even if they saw it in advance, the 7 people, they couldn't stop him. But their reaction was also very fast. Almost at the same time when their vision fell into darkness, they interfered with each other's chakra flow and broke free from the genjutsu one after another. Genin Genin, Genin Genin Genjutsu, Genin 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 Genjutsu. Genin, Genin God, Genin Genin. In addition to the fear, they also found that the people of Konoha had disappeared. Damn, did they use the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to escape? According to the information we got from Yunnan, the more people the Flying Thunder God Jutsu can transfer, the more chakra is needed. Shimizu Garashi used the ninjutsu to store chakra yesterday. It is reasonable to say that he can't transfer all of them. Most likely, he opened a barrier nearby to hide. It seems that he intends to delay time and wait for Namikaze Minato to come to support us. We have to hurry up. At this moment, Garashi temporarily used the Earth Release Nucleus to dig a hole in the ground. The barrier that isolated perception was opened. In the original story, Guy can defeat Kisame with 7 gates open. Although Dai's strength is not as good as Guy, the strength of these 7 people is not at the same level as Kisame. In this way, Dai should be able to deal with 7 people. Asuma's strength is not weak. A dozen people together may be able to deal with 1. In other words, I have to deal with the remaining 5? Garashi was also somewhat helpless. The strength of these 7 people is indeed not weak. With the cooperation of the ninjutsu, they can exert far more strength than their own. Even if it was him, it would be difficult to defeat them without exposing too many cards. Just as Garashi was thinking about a way to break the situation, the atmosphere in the cave gradually became strange. If Garashi leaves, none of them will have any opinion. But knowing that Garashi can also take a few people away, no one wants to be the one who stays. In this silent atmosphere, Asuma remembered the story that his old man once told him. In a similar situation, Naruto and his disciples were surrounded by Yunnan. Someone must be the bait. At that time, the person who didn't hesitate to say that he would be the bait was his father, Sarutobi. Is it the duty of a ninja to sacrifice himself? Thinking of this, Asuma laughed and said, "Let me stay, I am the son of Naruto, maybe they will value my value and not kill me." Everyone couldn't believe it. As the son of Naruto and Garashi's best friend, Asuma should be the one who has the most reason to live. Only by making the escape a good story can Garashi's reputation not be damaged. Mizuki glanced at Asuma and said coldly, "I will stay." As if touched, everyone said one after another. "I will also stay, our Inuzuka clan's ninja dogs can smell the enemy." "I will stay, I am the weakest, there is no need to waste the opportunity." "Me too," everyone pushed each other and finally quarreled. "Don't quarrel, it's not yet time to give up." Hearing Garashi's voice, everyone quieted down and looked at Garashi. Garashi's eyes swept across everyone. "First of all, I will not leave you behind and run away." Before his voice fell, everyone was anxious. "What? Absolutely not. You are the hope of the village's future, you are the one who will become Naruto." Shushi shook his head slightly. "If I can escape with a clear conscience in order to become Hokage, then I will do more things that betray my own beliefs because of this excuse. In the end, I will become the kind of person that even I don't know. There are some things that once you give up, there is no turning back. But, don't persuade me, you should know that I will not change what I have decided. Instead of persuading me, it is better to change this ending with me." Asuma took a deep breath. "Garashi, tell me what to do." Garashi quickly entered the state. "In short, you use the 4 purple flame formation to create a one-on-one combat environment for me and Dai Senpai. So, this time, not only will I save you, but you will also save me." Chapter 156. Hearing Garashi's words, everyone panicked. "What? 4 purple flame formation? But we don't know how to do it." Garashi said calmly, "So, you must learn it in the shortest time possible." "Can we really do it?" Garashi shook his head slightly. "Not only can you do it, but you have to do it better. Although the barrier can't be broken from the outside, if you are killed, the barrier will also lose its effectiveness. So, you have to learn how to set up another barrier to protect yourself." Everyone felt heavy in their hearts. As long as one person makes a mistake, everyone will be killed. Even Garashi's life will be handed over to them. Shushi watched quietly from the side, calm and collected. He wasn't worried about whether they could learn it in a short time or not. This barrier is actually a typical type of barrier that is easy to learn but difficult to master. In the original story, during the 4th Shinobi World War, Kato Duan, who was reborn from the Edo Tensei, was blocked by this barrier. At that time, it was Choza's 4 ordinary ninjas from 4 different villages who used this barrier. Their tacit understanding was almost negligible. Moreover, Choza belonged to the 1st unit of the ninja allied forces at that time, not a barrier class, which means that most of them learned it temporarily. Even they can do it, there's no reason why the talented geniuses in Garashi's team can't do it. Not to mention, Garashi also added a buff for them to work hard for his life. At the very least, even if he failed, he would only explode in the battle to protect everyone and reveal one of his trump cards. Metke counted with his fingers. "For 728, we need 28 people to block their movements. We don't seem to have enough here." Asuma shook his head. "According to Garashi, he and Dai Senpai will deal with 1 each, and we only need to block the other 5. 20 people. Kurenai's eyes swept across everyone. "It's still not enough. That is to say, some of us need to act as nodes for 2 or even 3 barriers." Hearing this, the pressure on everyone was even greater. Not to mention that they have to learn it in a short time, they have to use it on elite ninjas like the 7 ninja swordsmen, and even act as nodes for multiple barriers at the same time. In this way, even if they succeed, most of the barriers can only last for a very short time. If it's an ordinary trial, it's okay, but this time, Garashi is entrusting his life to them. Only this time, they have absolutely no reason to fail. Seeing this, Shushi comforted them gently. "Just do what you need to do. Leave the rest to me." Hearing this, everyone's eyes. Yes, Garashi can't be wrong. The only thing they have to do is to learn this barrier in the shortest time. As for how to defeat the enemy in such a short period of time, that was a problem for Shushi to consider. Very soon, everyone began to cooperate with each other to learn. Mato Dai also seemed to be encouraged, but he didn't want to disturb Guy. He could only hug Mustache and cry. Is this the passion of youth? I'm so touched. Garashi seriously encouraged, Dai-senpai, now it's up to the two of us. Dai nodded heavily, yes, we have to work hard too. After that, he ran to the side to warm up. Seeing that everyone was united and excited, and their eyes seemed to be blooming with infinite brilliance, Shushi nodded slightly. It was just like how he used to do on the court. He could have won by himself, but he chose the most difficult path. That's because he doesn't just want to win on the field, but outside the field, he also wants to win people's hearts. The more participation, the stronger the cohesiveness. The stronger the cohesiveness, the more people will be attracted. When he was in school, he could attract people of all grades to join him and become the leader of the school. On the battlefield, he can naturally use this small group as the foundation to attract ninjas of all classes to join him and become the leader of the battlefield. Only when there are enough people who agree with him, some of his future reforms can be carried out without hindrance. Outside, the 7 people who were running around like headless flies were a little irritated. Damn it, where are those wood-leaf kids hiding? Is it Yunan's bastard who lied to us? In fact, Shimizu Garashi's flying thunder god jutsu doesn't consume much chakra. Damn it, I should have brought a perceptive ninja. Maybe they are resting in the camp now, and we are the only ones who are foolishly looking around here. Let's go, we've tried our best anyway. Garashi, who has been paying attention to the outside world, was speechless after hearing their conversation. No wonder Kirin valued the Byakugan as much as the 6 Paths Noble Phantasm when he got it. Don't they have any detection skills? Just as Shushi was hesitating whether or not to release the barrier that isolated his perception, the bait man took out his blunt knife and hammered it on the ground as if he was venting his anger. Ah! So annoying. The ground in front of them collapsed, and the hidden part of the cave was exposed. Seeing this, both sides were a little dumbfounded. There was something wrong with this development. However, the 7 legendary swordsmen reacted quickly and surrounded Garashi and the others with a grin. Hee hee, so you're hiding here. You made us spend so much effort to find you. Kids these days are getting less and less cute. I, your uncle, am really going to get angry. Shushi was not angry. He just looked at the enemy with a calm expression. The problem now is, how do I complete the barrier? He might be able to use the darkness traversing technique again, but if the other party was on guard, the same illusion technique might not work. And if it failed, their purpose might be exposed. So, they must succeed in one try. Thinking of this, Garashi said in a deep voice, Dai-senpai, I'll have to trouble you to cover for me. While making arrangements on the surface, Garashi privately explained the details to everyone through the soul link. It was almost equivalent to the upgraded version of the Yamanaka clan's secret technique. Of course, he could develop a similar function. Dai nodded vigorously, looked at the 7 legendary swordsmen, and suddenly shouted excitedly, Guy, did you see that? Dad, I can also take on an S-level mission. As he said, he couldn't help but turn back. This should be an S-level mission, right? Guy burst into tears on the spot, gave a thumbs up and shouted, of course it is. Seeing the two of them reveal their true feelings, the 7 legendary swordsmen, who were worried that Dai would be a strong person, relaxed. This guy is really an idiot. Dai turned back and said solemnly, as the first human strong person to fight with me, I will definitely. Human strong person? Pipa Shirzong was keenly aware of the details. Have you fought with a tailed beast? Dai raised the corner of his mouth and gave him a thumbs up. Actually, I've only caught kittens and puppies. It's the first time I've fought with a real person. Chapter 157. Hearing Dai's declaration, even the Woodleaf people who had high hopes for him were dumbfounded. Why do I feel that Guy's father is even more unreliable than Guy? Kittens and puppies? Tonka Sanaji muttered to himself and immediately became angry. Damn bastard, how dare you compare us with those things? Mato Dai scratched the back of his head and complained on behalf of the cats and dogs, "You're not as cute as them." Cute? How dare you humiliate me with such vulgar words? Tonka Sanaji's eyes were full of murderous intent. For a qualified Kirin ninja, powerful and cruel is the most appropriate label. Go to hell. Tonka Sanaji jumped up and waved his blunt sword as if he wanted to kill everyone in the cave. Opportunity. Dai only felt his right foot was ready to move. It was indeed difficult for him to control the power beyond his body, but this guy jumped directly at him. Wasn't this telling him to kick? Without hesitation, Dai directly opened the seventh door. An incomparably powerful chakra soared into the sky, and Dai's whole body was wrapped in a blue aura as he jumped up. Puff 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 puff. Tonka Sanaji, who was hit by the blue aura, crazily vomited blood, and a layer of blood mist even burst out of his body. At this moment, Wild Bait felt as if his body was being rammed by a mad-tailed beast, trampled back and forth, and the bones in his body were almost broken into pieces. Then, under everyone's gaze, he flew backward into the sky like a meteor. Seeing this, the Woodleaf people couldn't believe it. So strong, Guy's father is so powerful. Being looked down by so many people and still burning his youth, Guy's father is really amazing. The rest of the 6 people were also shocked. #*Delta, is this Woodleaf genin? Too shameless, such a strong person pretending to be a genin. Where's your dignity as a strong person? Just when the 6 people were stunned and subconsciously looked at Tonka Sanaji flying into the sky, Garashi quickly made hand seals. Suddenly, the 6 people didn't understand that they were in an illusion again. Fortunately, with their previous experience, they did not panic. Instead, they dispelled the illusion with ease. However, when they opened their eyes again, the world before them was completely different. A transparent barrier spread out in all directions. Purple flames were attached to the barrier, trapping them like a cage. Is this a barrier? Wait, could it be that this bastard wants to defeat us one by one? Heh, you want to trap us with just these brats? I've really been looked down upon. Quickly break this barrier and show them who's boss. Of course, only 5 of them received such treatment. As soon as Pipa Shirzong got rid of the illusion, he saw Garashi rushing towards him. It was too late for him to dodge, and he could only barely hold the beheading knife in front of his chest. Clang! An unstoppable force came, and even the blade of the executioner's broadsword was bent. In the next moment, Pipa Shirzong was sent flying like a cannonball. Garashi followed like a shadow, and with a heaven's pain kick, he broke a small section of the beheading knife that blocked his attack. Pipa Shirzong didn't care about the pain in his heart, and ran for his life. Seeing that in just 1 or 2 seconds, Pipa Shirzong was surrounded by danger, and he didn't even have time to form a seal to counterattack, the 5 people who were still in the barrier were terrified. This guy's strength seemed to be too strong. Thinking of their previous evaluation of Garashi, they felt even more guilty. How was it possible that no one could defeat him in a one-on-one fight? Even if 2 or 3 of them were to fight one-on-one, they would most likely lose. The 5 of them looked at each other, and tacitly increased the damage to the barrier. Similarly, Wild Bait, who had just fallen from the sky, was also frightened. As soon as he hit the ground, he saw Mato Dai attacking him like lightning. Oh no, it's too late. The person sighed in his heart, and turned his body to the side as if he had accepted his fate. Then, he saw Mato Dai rushing past him with a gust of wind. What's going on? The person was at a loss. The physical strength and reaction speed of a strong martial artist were extremely fast. Even if he was at his peak, he wouldn't have the confidence to avoid the attack of such a strong martial artist, not to mention now that he was seriously injured. Could it be that he... A bold thought came to the person's mind. Seeing Mato Dai rushing towards him again, he didn't have time to think and jumped to the side. In the end, he dodged again. Seeing this, the person coughed up blood and laughed wildly. So that's how it is, I understand now. You really aren't a strong martial artist, you have power but you can't control it. Although I don't know how you got such power, but trash is trash, it's still too early for you to kill me." Hearing his wild laughter, Woodleaf and the others were a little nervous. Could there be a deviation in the plan? But in the next moment, they abandoned this idea. Just like how Garashi chose to believe them, they definitely wouldn't doubt Garashi. The five-man group, who were looking for the weaknesses in their mentality, were surprised to find that this group of Woodleaf brats' mentality seemed to be too good, not giving them a chance to attack at all. Opposite the person named Mado Dai, the person named Mado Dai nodded in agreement. "You're right, compared to strong martial artists like you, the difference is really too big, so, next, let me open the last door." The person named Mado Dai was so scared that his face turned white. It was just an incomplete power. If he let the opponent use his full strength, even if he couldn't control it, he could still easily kill him, right? But suddenly, Garashi's voice came from the other side of the battlefield. "Senior Dai, please don't resist." Mado Dai was confused. The next moment he felt a strange thing squeezing into his body. He subconsciously wanted to resist, but when he thought of Garashi's voice, he relaxed. He was grateful to Garashi, the only person who looked up to him and his father, and never stingy with his help. The person named Mado Dai was laughing wildly, but suddenly he found that the eyes of the person named Mado Dai had changed. He went from being simple and honest to being in high spirits and full of aggressiveness. What a powerful strength! It seems that I still underestimated the potential of the 8 inner hidden gates. Garashi, who took over Mado Dai's body, was also a little shocked. He thought that his immortal mode combined with the 5 inner hidden gates might be able to display the strength of the 7 inner hidden gates. But now, it seems that the more the 8 inner hidden gates, the more the immortal mode's strength increased. Of course, this could also be because he didn't dig enough into the immortal mode. But, to be able to feel the power of the 7 inner hidden gates in advance, it's already a great help to me. Mado Dai looked sharply at the person named Mado Dai. "Next, have you thought about how you want to die?" Chapter 158. Tonka Sanaji swallowed his saliva with difficulty. They had also learned from Yunin that Garashi had another signature ability, spiritualization. Therefore, he roughly understood who his current opponent was. That thick eyebrow speed and strength, plus Shimizu Garashi's combat awareness, damn it, I seem to be in trouble. Tonka Sanaji could only forcefully hypnotize himself. Dividing his attention into two means that neither of his bodies can fully display their strength. As long as I delay him a little, maybe Juzong can defeat his main body. However, if Pipa Shirzong knew what Tonka Sanaji was thinking, he would most likely curse out loud. He was about to be beaten to death, and he was still waiting for others to save him. Moreover, Garashi had no intention of delaying with him. He controlled such a powerful force, and he was facing a seriously injured Tonka Sanaji. If he still wanted to delay like this, he would be too weak. With a flash, Mado Dai appeared in front of Tonka Sanaji almost instantly. How can he be so fast? Tonka Sanaji had just thought of this when his opponent's fists landed on his body like a storm. Da-da-da-da, hundreds of punches were thrown in an instant, and Tonka Sanaji didn't even have time to react before he exploded. A 1-second kill. Seeing this, the 5 people in the barrier panicked. How is this possible? It's just that it's completely different when someone is controlling it. Damn it. This guy is controlling 2 bodies at the same time. Isn't there any obstruction? We have to break the barrier as soon as possible, or else all of us will die here. Under the pressure of death, the 5 people erupted with unprecedented potential, and the barrier that was about to reach its limit instantly began to shake. Garashi looked at the direction of the barrier and chose the one that was shaking the most violently, and said, "Remove Shinhachi's barrier." The barrier that was originally a cage had now become a wall that protected them. Shinhachi, who was trying his best to break the barrier, was dumbfounded. His strength was only ranked in the middle, so how did he become the one that was shaking the most? Thinking of this, he subconsciously looked at the others. "You tricked me?" The eyes of the other 4 were indifferent. Although they were called the 7 legendary swordsmen, they were never on the same side. At the same time, Pipa Shirzong was also affected by the death of Wild Bait. His movements showed a hint of panic, and Garashi decisively entered the one-punch mode. Monstrous strength, meteorite meteor. Like a volcanic eruption, the incomparably powerful explosive force caused the air to emit a thunderous sound. Pipa Shirzong subconsciously tried to block the attack with his machete. However, the beheading broadsword that had been hit several times in a row could no longer bear the burden. With a loud explosion, Pipa Shirzong watched in disbelief as the beheading knife was cut in half. Then, without losing any momentum, the fist landed on Pipa Shirzong's waist, splitting him in two. Seeing this scene, Wu Jinba was so scared that he turned around and ran away. This was also the reason why Garashi didn't use genjutsu, but chose the simplest and most violent way to get rid of Pipa Shirzong. The barrier was already on the verge of collapse. If Wu Jinba was allowed to delay for a while, maybe the others would be able to break out. Several people in the barrier had gloomy eyes and said loudly, "Idiot. You actually exposed your back to the enemy. That Shimizu Garashi is not as strong as he showed." Juzong and Wild Bait both lost the initiative and died. Hearing their voices, Wu Jinba sneered. Of course, he knew that Shimizu Garashi was not that strong, but the problem was that even so, Shimizu Garashi was still much stronger than him. He had already calculated that it would take them 20 seconds to break out of the barrier. By the time they came out, the grass on his grave would be 3 meters high. Instead of buying time for these bastards, it was better to take a gamble. When Shimizu Garashi chased after him, there would be an accident in the barrier, forcing Shimizu Garashi to return early. Mato Dai turned into a stream of light and chased after Wu Jinba. Garashi stopped in front of the barrier and calmly glanced at the remaining 4 people. "Don't choose me, don't choose me." Watermelon Mountain, Fugu, and Fugu prayed frantically in their hearts. At this moment, they inexplicably had the illusion that they were pigs in a pigsty, selected by a butcher. It didn't take long for Shushi to pick the 4th piglet. Damn it, it's actually me. Unlike Wu Jinba, Ghostblade Mountain Bamboo, who was relatively confident in his own strength, did not choose to escape. Instead, he roared and took the initiative to attack Garashi with his dual swords. Choosing me as your opponent is the worst decision in your life. Flounder Liberation. Flounder's stomach spewed out blue light, and then converged into a huge chakra energy ball, accompanied by a terrifying power, pushed towards Garashi. On the opposite side, Garashi looked at the other party's actions with a strange expression. You want to compete with me in terms of chakra quality? He knew that Flounder was a killing weapon that could release chakra as the number of enemies killed increased. But the problem was, you haven't killed anyone yet. This level of chakra wanted to fight with him? Garashi didn't even intend to maintain the Hashiman Tanku. After entering the one-time Sage mode, he instantly condensed an equally huge chakra energy ball. Sage Method, Super Jade Rasengan. Because Garashi used Flying Thunder God and Rasengan the most on the battlefield, there was relatively little information about Sage mode. He only knew that this mode needed a long time to accumulate power, so Ghostblade Mountain Bamboo didn't think about it at all. Therefore, when he saw that Shushi had chosen to fight head-on, Ghostblade Mountain Bamboo was overjoyed. He was most worried about Shushi's physical skills. He did not expect that this idiot would give up his greatest advantage to fight head-on with him. Thinking of this, Ghostblade Mountain Bamboo grinned. How can a person's strength be compared to a person and a ninja sword? I'll let you, an ignorant brat, see the true power of a ninja sword. Puff 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 puff. Although they were both chakra energy balls, the difference in quality between the two sides was too great. The energy ball released by Flounder collapsed almost immediately. Then, the rest of the energy was released on Ghostblade Mountain Bamboo's body. In the next moment, he became a scum. Garashi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. If it wasn't for the other party being too confident in his ninja sword, and also being behind in terms of intelligence, it wouldn't be so easy to deal with him. Well, it would at least take more than 10 seconds. But at the same time as the energy storm was released, the remaining 3 barriers were broken at the same time, and 3 wild laughter came out. Huh, we're out, good job, Mountain Bamboo, "We'll go with you." But before they could finish laughing, they saw a few familiar body parts fall in front of them. Seeing this, the three of them were a little confused. The three of them had originally agreed to break the barrier and sneak attack when the two people were fighting, but Mountain Bamboo, you died too quickly and too miserably. Then, they saw a rain of blood splattering all over the sky, Garashi's cold eyes, and screams coming from afar. The three of them suddenly felt cold all over. Asma and the others were frightened. Oh no, they still couldn't stabilize the barrier and let them escape. Just as they were thinking whether the remaining three ninja swordsmen would cause trouble for Garashi, they saw Watermelon Mountain Pufferfish and Kuroho Rhea escape in two directions at the fastest speed in their lives. They escaped. Woodleaf and the others subconsciously widened their eyes. This is the famous 7 ninja swordsmen of the ninja world. Unexpectedly, they were scared by Garashi's gaze and fled for their lives. However, not all three of them were like this. He has 2 bodies, and if he escapes separately, there is only a 1 in 3 chance of escaping successfully. Shisaku looked at Woodleaf and the others who were close by, and his eyes were fierce. Take advantage of the fact that he is distracted by the escape of the 2 of them, grab a hostage. No longer hesitating, Shisaku hurriedly stabbed at Asma with his sword. But in the next moment, he was sent flying by Garashi's Rasengan. Damn, he actually noticed me. Shisaku's heart was cold, and when he was about to close his eyes and wait for death, he suddenly reacted, wait, I don't seem to be seriously injured. In the previous 2 times, Pipa Shirzong and Ghost Blade Mountain Bamboo were violently killed by each other, but this time, he was alive and well. Could it be that Shimizu Garashi's chakra is already? Thinking of this, Shisaku shouted with joy, come back, he doesn't have much chakra left. Hearing his voice, Watermelon Mountain Pufferfish and Kuroho Rhea paused for a moment, and then ran faster, leaving Shisaku alone in the wind. Then, he saw the people around him laughing and surrounding him. Don't come over. Chapter 159. Soon, another corpse appeared on the ground. Finally, it's over. We actually survived. Everyone's body went soft and sat on the ground. They couldn't believe it. That was the 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja sword, a powerful force that could capture a small country overnight. Not to mention them, even a team of elite jonin would find it difficult to escape from such an enemy. But not only did they do it, but they also removed the name of the 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja sword from today onwards. And all of this had been accomplished under Shushi's leadership. The admiration in everyone's eyes when they looked at Shushi was so strong that it could not be dissolved. Asma shouted excitedly, Garashi, you defeated the 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja sword. From today on, your name will definitely spread throughout the ninja world. Kurenai's face was also flushed with excitement. Garashi, you will also become a legend like the Sannin. If before, Garashi's various names were only spread on the battlefield in Yunnan, Kirin, then after today, his name may be heard even in the rock crypsis and sand crypsis on the other side of the ninja world. Everyone nodded with pride, worthy of the person they recognized and were willing to follow. However, Garashi shook his head slightly. No, it's not me, it's us. Garashi, if it were someone else, would they be willing to bet their lives on me? Without your trust, I can only run away as a loser. Upon hearing Shuishi's explanation, many people muttered to themselves in a daze, are we really that important? Of course, people who believe in miracles are as great as miracles. Garashi's warm and soft eyes swept across the crowd. We are the best team in Woodleaf. This miracle was created by all of us. Almost everyone burst into tears. In fact, they had been blaming themselves. Because they were too weak, Garashi had no choice but to stay behind and protect them at the risk of dying in battle. Unexpectedly, not only did Garashi not blame them, but he also recognized them as his best companions. Such a Garashi was simply too gentle. If emotions could be quantified, their current performance could be described as follows. Worship +1, +2, +3, +10,086 fanaticism. Garashi knew when to stop. Next, let's pack up the spoils of war and bring these ninja swords back. Let's try to create a group of 5 ninja swords. An ownerless ninja sword can be summoned back, but it won't be if it's in someone's possession. In Garashi's memory, during the 4 world wars in the original work, Shiraku and Flounder were not psychic because they were held by Killer Bee and Chojo Juru respectively. Of course, it would be best to reseal it. After all, he couldn't just eat, drink, defecate, or sleep with a knife in his arms. Huh? Isn't this beheading sword broken? Don't worry, the characteristic of the beheading sword is to absorb the iron and the blood to repair itself. Don't waste it, take this sword and cut them a few more times. On the way back. Huh, Guy, isn't Dad very powerful? Super powerful. Because Guy gave a thumbs up, the simple stretcher tilted, and Dai instantly screamed in despair. Shushi shook his head helplessly. The after-effects of opening the 7th gate were too severe. Even a strong man like Dai would scream in pain just because he moved a little. Hearing this scream, Konoha's ninjas who were on duty around rushed over with a shiver. Seeing that it was Garashi, they were relieved. Shinobi Shueisha, didn't you go on a mission? Why are you back so soon? Without waiting for him to finish, the ninja next to him screamed. Isn't this Kirin's ninja sword? Hearing this scream, the ninjas around quickly reacted. Beheading broadsword, blunt sword pocket cut, long sword sew needle. Didn't you say that Kirin's 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja sword have always been with him? Asma waved his hand with an embarrassed face. Oh, actually, we met the 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja sword on the road and killed 5 of them. In an instant, the camp was dead silent. After a quarter of an hour, the Jonins who heard the news crowded the conference room, and outside the conference room, there were many genin and chunin sneakily lying down. Slap. Jiraiya slapped himself and asked, You mean, Kirin's 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja sword came to kill you, but you killed 5 of them? Garashi emphasized. It's us. Jiraiya didn't hear this, he wasn't a fool, how could he not know who was in charge? It's not bad if other people can play a role. The other Jonins in the conference room were also shocked. Yesterday we killed 11 Jonins, today we even killed 5 of the 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja sword, will the Mizukage cry? From now on, we will call Garashi the Jonin Harvester. Oh, I was promoted to Jonin at the age of 27, I think I'm a genius, but in Garashi's eyes, I'm just a number. Are all newcomers monsters now? Seeing this, Shushi hurriedly explained what had happened. However, everyone's surprise didn't reduce, but became more and more shocked. Although it wasn't 1 against 7 as they imagined, it was amazing enough to kill the enemy in a single attack. How many seconds to kill a 7 legendary swordsman? Is Kirin's 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja sword a unit of time? It's too exaggerated, I was just a chunin when I was Garashi's age. They knew that Garashi was strong, but because Garashi has always been fighting with Minato or Orochimaru, and Jiraiya, they didn't have an accurate idea of Garashi's strength. Well, it's clear now. The kind that can beat them with one hand. Even Jiraiya couldn't help but gasp. To be fair, even if it was 1 against 7, he wouldn't lose to them, but killing a 7 legendary swordsman in a few seconds was something he couldn't do. In terms of single kill, he really can't compare to Garashi. Lying on the bordered soil, Jiraiya swallowed crazily. Senpai is too powerful, if I can be as strong as Senpai, maybe Rin will. Kakashi looked at him with disgust, and immediately clenched his fist. The gap between Senpai and me seems to be getting bigger and bigger. At this time, there was a commotion outside. Wow! It's Naruto-sama. Great, it's Naruto-sama who came to help. Wait, do we need reinforcements now? Why are there so many people here? Why don't we need reinforcements? With some doubts, Sandem-sama walked into the conference room. Then, he saw the 5 swords. This is, Senpai, I may have troubled you in vain. Orochimaru helplessly spread his hands. As far as the current situation is concerned, the crisis seems to have been resolved. Chapter 160. Soon, Sandem-sama also joined the list of gasps, which made the temperature of early spring rise a little. Turning Kirin's 7-man team into a 2-man team was something he didn't even dare to imagine. Looking at Garashi, Sandem-sama was very satisfied. His talent, temperament, and faith were all perfect. Especially the way he dealt with the incident this time. He saw the shadow of his teacher in Shueisha. That's how Nidaime Naruto protected them in the past. Orochimaru smiled. Sensei is our lucky star. The crisis was solved as soon as he arrived. Sandem-sama smiled and accepted Orochimaru's flattery. Don't flatter me, this is all thanks to Garashi. Since the crisis has been solved, when do you plan to return to the village? Since I'm already here, let me move a little bit, so that the shameless Raikage always bullies you juniors. They weren't overly optimistic, but they knew the impact of this incident on Kirin. You know, the 7 legendary swordsmen were promoted as Kirin's face, and 5 of them died at once, which is equivalent to 2 Sannin in Woodleaf's eyes. Whether in terms of combat power or morale, Kirin will be greatly weakened. In this case, Kirin may directly escape back to the land of water. Garashi reminded him, Naruto-sama, this time we can achieve such a result. In addition to our cooperation, it is also thanks to Dai-sama's efforts. Mato Dai? Sandem-sama nodded with a smile. After returning to the village this time, let him be promoted to Tokubetsu Jonin. Mato Dai's own shortcomings are too big. Without opening the 8 gates, he's at most a chunin, which is easy to be targeted. He can't open the 8 gates every day, right? If he really has the title of Jonin, it's not a good thing for him. Garashi didn't say much. He knew very well that in this incident, Mato Dai was destined not to be the main character. Just like in the original work, when Pippa Shirzong asked Itachi about the 4 heroes of the 7 ninja swordsmen, he only got a response that he had never heard of them. The reason was very simple. For a strong person like him to be a genin his entire life, if word of this got out, wouldn't it mean that the upper echelons of Woodleaf were all good-for-nothings? Even for ordinary villagers, most of them were unwilling to admit this fact. After all, many of them had looked down on the father and son duo. If such people were to become heroes, wouldn't it make them look like clowns? Relatively speaking, it is more in line with Woodleaf's political correctness to promote outstanding young ninjas like Garashi, Asuma, and Mizuki. Therefore, the current outcome was actually not bad. Guy thanked him and rushed out. Dad, your youth has finally been rewarded. You are now a Tokubetsu Jonin. What? I am a Tokubetsu Jonin? Mato Dai sat up in shock, and then his face distorted. Oh. The people next to him were speechless. This guy really didn't have the aura of a strong person. In the conference room, Jiraiya rubbed his chin and asked. The 7th gate of the Hashiman Tanku can let a genin exert strength beyond a jonin. Sensei, should we let more people try to practice the Hashiman Tanku? He knew about the Hashiman Tanku, but at most, there were people who opened the 5th gate, so it naturally didn't attract enough attention. Do you think that just because Mato Dai practiced the 7th gate, it means that others can also practice the 7th gate? Sandaime shook his head slightly and looked at Mato Dai with eyes full of amazement. This requires a strong perseverance for more than 10 years. Not to mention ordinary people, even you may not be able to do it. More than 10 years to practice a ninjutsu, and there is a high probability of success. Jiraiya was speechless. This price is really too high. The most important point is that they also know Mato Dai's performance in this incident. If it wasn't for Garashi's control, maybe he wouldn't even be able to kill a jonin. Such a performance really can't arouse their interest. Of course, this is also because they don't know the power of the last gate, otherwise they wouldn't be so indifferent. Orochimaru asked. Sensei, should we now discuss the distribution of these ninja swords? Of course, but... Sandaime looked at Garashi with a smile. Since they are spoils of war, they should be distributed by the people who bring them back. Hearing this, the Jonins looked at Garashi with fiery eyes. In addition to their own strength, at least 1/3 of the reputation of the 7 legendary swordsmen comes from their swords. If they can get a ninjutsu, maybe they can be as famous as the 7 legendary swordsmen. Garashi smiled. Before that, I hope that my teammates can get 2 of the swords first. The Jonins looked at each other, but they didn't say anything. Although they feel that it's a waste for a chunin to use a ninja sword, the right to distribute the sword is still in the hands of Shueisha. Not to mention that the probability of getting a ninja sword is small, but there's no chance at all. Yunin's stronghold. What did you say? Reikage asked in disbelief. 5 of the 7 idiots were killed by Shimizu Garashi. Dodai smiled bitterly. Although it sounds incredible, it's true. 2 years, I waited for 2 years and didn't do anything. I just wanted to let Woodleaf's people relax their vigilance. Reikage cursed. This is good, Woodleaf will never give us a chance. After saying that, he felt that it was still not enough to vent his anger. Not only did they not kill anyone, they even lost 5 of their own. Are they rushing to Qingshui Shushi's death? In fact, we underestimated him. Dodai's face was serious. He has been willing to be a support in the past 2 years, hiding his light under several others, but even so, he has made a big name for himself. A also had a serious look in his eyes. I've long felt that this guy isn't simple. He always has a calm look on his face, as if there's nothing that can make him worry. Maybe this bastard is still hiding his strength. Killer Bee had a suspicious look on his face. Big brother, have you been rejected by him too many times and you're traumatized? Reikage squinted his eyes. I have the demeanor of an admiral every time, so am I hiding my strength underscore? He clenched his hands and shouted. Believe me. The most dangerous person on this battlefield is that kid. Dodai asked. Ai-sama, do you have any evidence? He said confidently. Of course, it's my intuition as a man and an opponent. Reikage's mouth twitched and changed the topic. That kid is now a big deal, and we don't need to talk about killing him anymore. Dodai asked. Then, what's our attitude towards Kirin? Of course, we will take revenge. Reikage murderously said. He dares to steal things from Yunin, don't he know that we will only enter and not leave? I endured it before for the sake of cooperation, but they can't even do such a small thing as assassination, so there is no need to keep them alive. He did have the confidence to say this. Their Yunin and Woodleaf have been fighting for 2 years, not to mention suffering losses, they rarely even fell into a disadvantage. On the other hand, Kirin was defeated in just 2 days on the battlefield. Such a waste, what qualifications does he have to cooperate with them as one of the 5 great ninja villages? Chapter 161. Kirin's Stronghold. The Kirin ninjas in the stronghold were panicking, obviously frightened by the sudden bad news. Are you kidding me? 5 of the 7 ninjas died? And they were defeated by a child, impossible, I don't believe it. Shimizu Garashi? That guy is a monster in human skin. Hearing their lamentation, Violet Knight covered her mouth and elbowed Empress Shomiai. Are they talking about the Shimizu Garashi who took the Chunin exam with us 2 years ago? Empress Shomiai sighed, who else could it be? He's too dazzling. Violet Knight's tone was full of amazement. 2 years ago, he swept away the geniuses of the entire ninja world, and now even the 7 legendary swordsmen are not his opponents. Empress Shomiai nodded in agreement. When their eyes were still limited to the younger generation, Shimizu Garashi's opponents had become famous ninjas of the previous generation. This gap was so big that she didn't even have the heart to catch up. In the temporary headquarters, the Mizukage, who has always been indifferent and calm, was infuriated. Damn Shimizu Garashi, not only did he kill my people, he even dared to take away our Kirin's ninja swords. And that damn Reikage, he didn't even know the enemy's information in 2 years, he's simply a waste of waste. I will not let you go. Compared to the death of the 5 ninja swords, what made the Mizukage more distressed was the loss of the 5 swords. The 7 legendary swordsmen, there are swords first, then there are 7 swords. If the 5 swords were not lost, as long as 5 jonins were selected for a period of time, a weakened version of the 7 legendary swordsmen would be created. Raiga and Fugu lowered their heads guiltily, pretending that they didn't hear it. You can't beat Reikage, you can't catch Shimizu Garashi, you can only shout here. After venting his anger, the Mizukage looked at him coldly. Is that Shimizu Garashi really that powerful? Watermelon Mountain nodded heavily. That guy is a monster. In a one-on-one fight, no one in Kirin is his opponent except for you, Mizukage-sama. Raiga agreed. According to Yunin's information, he's fast, self-healing, proficient in all kinds of ninjutsu, and has strong combat awareness. Other than his explosive power, he has almost no shortcomings. Moreover, he has now made up for his only shortcoming. Watermelon Hill said again, that's right. That guy is a hexagonal warrior without any shortcomings. Raiga continued, I suspect that this is all part of Reikage's plan. He already knew that Shimizu Garashi was terrifyingly strong, so he deliberately sent us to our deaths. Otherwise, why don't we hold Minato back, while Brother AB ambushes him? Of course, they had to flatter him. Otherwise, wouldn't it seem like they had failed miserably? Besides, that guy was indeed too strong. Hearing their flattery, the surrounding jonins were horrified. Why did they feel that Shimizu Garashi was a big demon? The Mizukage frowned slightly. Was it really Reikage who set a trap for him? Was it revenge for their action of plundering Yunin a few days ago? At this moment, a Chunin hurriedly ran in and said, Mizukage-sama, it's not good. Yunin's army is attacking us. They said that they want us to spit out all the loot we took back. What? The Mizukage's eyes widened, and he barely opened them. Sure enough, it's this old guy who set us up. Damn it, I must let them see the power of our Kirin. The group of jonins was a little anxious. How could they fight Yunin in their current state? But before they could dissuade him, they heard the Mizukage continue, get on the boat, go around Yunin's back and attack their home. Everyone suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. As expected of Mizukage-sama, he was insidious. Rock Crypsis Village. 7 ninja swordsmen. Shimizu Garashi. Inoki sat on a raised chair and tapped his fingers on the table. Yunin's group of idiots really raised a monster for Woodleaf. Kitsuchi on the side also looked dignified. If he encountered this situation, the best result would be that he would be killed after killing 2 or 3 enemies. But Shimizu Garashi killed 5 of the 7 ninja swordsmen and scared 2 of them away. It was simply incomprehensible to him. 2 years ago, he was just promoted to Chunin, but now he can kill jonin like cutting melons and vegetables. How much experience did Yunin give him? Magic Leech's mouth twitched wildly. He had no doubt that he would die if he fought against Shimizu Garashi now. Taking a deep breath, Magic Leech looked excited. In fact, this is also good. The stronger he is, the more useful our spies will be. Inoki's eyes lit up. Is it that little guy from Kusanagi? Is he reliable? Magic Leech said confidently, absolutely reliable. Inoki nodded with satisfaction and warned, don't use this pawn easily. With Shimizu Garashi's talent and achievements, he is likely to be a candidate for Naruto in the future. A spy placed around Naruto is even more useful than a war. Magic Leech said loudly, yes. Let's leave Shimizu Garashi to Reikage and Mizukage to worry about. Our task now is. Inoki said in a deep voice, try to win over Hanzo the salamander, and try to contact the monster in the desert. Sand Crypsis Village, Infirmary. More than a dozen Sand Crypsis ninjas were lying on the hospital bed in pain, and the medical team was busy treating them. Raza asked in a serious tone, is the antidote ready? The medical team member wiped the sweat on his head. I'm sorry, Kazakage-sama, the complexity of this poison is far beyond our ability. Raza turned to look at the side. Chio-senpai, how is your progress? However, Chio seemed to be distracted and just quietly looked at the injured ninja's wound. Chio-senpai, Chio-senpai, Chio looked up, I'm sorry, I can't help. The medical team member was surprised. How is that possible? Chio-senpai, you are the strongest medical ninja in Sand Crypsis. I'm not a medical ninja, as a puppeteer, I'm better at poison. Chio said coldly, as for detoxification, Woodleaf's little girl is much better than me. Raza asked softly, Princess Katsuyu, Tsunadeheim? Chio's expression was calm, aren't we now allies with Woodleaf? You can choose to ask them for help. But Ebizo poured a bucket of cold water. Sister, how long have you not paid attention to the situation outside? The number of people poisoned by Woodleaf is no less than us. Chio said, oh, then they can't be saved, wait for death, goodbye. Chapter 162. Just when the atmosphere in the room was a little dull, Marky ran over with a shocked face and reported, Kazakage-sama, there is important information from the spy. Important information? Raza quickly entered a state of alert. Is it Rock Crypsis again? Marky shook his head. It's information about the battlefield between Woodleaf and Kirin. The battlefield between Woodleaf and Kirin? Raza frowned. What does this have to do with the Sand Crypsis? But then he thought about it. Woodleaf is an ally, and Kirin attacks from the south from time to time. Their information is not completely unrelated. Therefore, Raza asked patiently, what is it? Marky tried to suppress the shock in his heart and said concisely, Kirin sent the 7 legendary swordsmen to intercept and kill Woodleaf's Shimizu Garashi, but 5 of them were killed by the other side. When his voice fell, the room was dead silent. Not to mention Raza, even the Chio siblings who didn't pay attention, and even the ninjas of the medical class were shocked. The 7 legendary swordsmen are not unknown in the Sand Crypsis. On the contrary, because they lead teams to plunder from time to time, several of them can be said to be notorious in the Sand Crypsis. Because of this, when everyone heard that the 7 legendary swordsmen besieged one person and finally killed 5 of them, they were so shocked. Shimizu Garashi, is he the one who became famous in the Chunin exam 2 years ago? Are you kidding? He was just a Chunin 2 years ago. By the way, didn't Marky also become a Chunin in the exam 2 years ago? Yes. Marky, did you also hide your strength? Hearing these voices, Marky was depressed. He is a normal human being. Why was he always being compared to monsters? Raza frowned. Something's not right. He clearly knows that Shimizu Garashi knows the Flying Thunder God technique. Why would Kirin still send people to kill him? Marky explained, according to the intelligence, it seems that Shimizu Garashi brought a group of burdens and was forced to fight the enemy to the death. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched when they heard that. Was that something a human would say? He had no choice but to kill 5 of the 7 ninja swordsmen. In that case, the 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja blade were really sinful, forcing others to kill them. Raza rubbed his eyebrows. In other words, he killed 5 of the 7 legendary swordsmen under the burden of a group of burdens? Marky nodded hesitantly. That seemed to be the case, right? He was too shocked at that time, so he ran over after taking a glance. Everyone was shocked speechless. He could kill the 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja blade under the burden of a group of burdens. Was Shimizu Garashi not the reincarnation of the Sage of the 6 Paths? At this time, Ebizo suddenly asked, Shimizu Garashi seems to be the disciple of Princess Katsuyu, right? Raza woke up. You mean, we should ask him to come over? Ebizo nodded slightly. Since his strength is so strong, his medical ninjutsu as his profession should not be too bad. Raza took a deep breath. Marky, inform the intelligence team to send a message for help. The border of the country of Kawa. It's the hexagonal warrior Shimizu Garashi, run. It's obviously the great evil demon king. Isn't it the blade of light that cut the fog? Looking at these Kirin ninjas who didn't forget to correct his name, Garashi said helplessly. How many nicknames did they give me? Conservative estimate, more than 20. Asma said enviously. Damn it, I also want to be nicknamed by the enemy. Mizuki glanced at him. Didn't someone call you Asma the Smoking Ghost? Asma said gloomily. This nickname has no momentum, and if I say it too much, I'll get beaten up. Garashi laughed. Well, let's finish the mission quickly and go back. Since Kirin's army fled to the sea, the Kirin ninjas who were patrolling outside at that time were unlucky. They were almost reduced to the point of earning points for them. Perhaps they heard the cries of the Kirin ninjas as they fled. Several injured ninjas rushed out from the bushes. Woodleaf-sama, help, please help us. Garashi looked at them and asked tentatively. Are you ninjas from Hoshi village? Several ninjas nodded again and again. We are the expeditionary force sent by the village to participate in the war. When we were fighting with Frost ninjas, we were scattered by Yunin's ninjas. They were a little angry. Everyone was fighting with each other, and the boss was fighting with the boss. What's the point of fighting with the boss? Do you think we don't know how to ride your leg? In that case, take us quickly. Garashi wasn't worried that it was a trap. The Sandame went to fight with Reikage. In this case, no one on the battlefield could stop him. It's the enemy that needs to be worried. Do we just go like this? The ninjas seemed a little hesitant. They have a lot of people. Asma looked at them strangely. Didn't you hear what the Kirin shouted when they fled? Several ninjas touched their heads. We heard it, but we didn't understand what it meant. Asma sighed. Oh, it's really embarrassing to introduce ourselves like this, but who told us to be so good? Listen, Wow. It's Garashi-sama. We are, get out of the way, don't block the way. Seeing several ninjas crowded in front of Garashi, Asma said with a sad face. Oh, I knew it would be like this. Soon, Garashi and the others found some ninjas on the other side of the forest who were fighting with the enemy. At least in the eyes of Garashi and the others, this battle was indeed a bit painful to watch. A C-class ninjutsu seal took more than 10 seconds, and the two sides only used a few ninjutsu back and forth. What? You can use the great fireball jutsu so skillfully. Look at my great water ball jutsu. Damn, if it wasn't for my peacock secret jutsu, seeing the frost ninjas fighting in full swing, Woodleaf and the others couldn't help but join the battle. After 30 seconds, the battle was over. The rest of the ninjas came over and thanked them. Thanks to Woodleaf, we would be in trouble today. Asma said sympathetically. You don't even have a chunin? It's too much for Star to let some of you go to the battlefield. As if he was humiliated, the leader of the ninjas argued with a red face. I am a jonin, they are all chunin. Chunin, jonin? Asma was shocked. These guys who could barely use C-class ninjutsu were chunin and jonin. He felt that these shinobis might not even be able to defeat him when he was a genin. Seeing the awkward atmosphere, Garashi hurriedly said, there should be other companions scattered in your village, let's hurry up and continue to look for them. The jonin stopped Garashi and said, please be careful, I feel that Yunin may not be here at Frost's request. A group of Woodleaf ninjas had a strange look in their eyes. Yunin didn't come at Frost's request, is it possible that she came specifically to catch them? Chapter 163. Is this Yunin's purpose? Although the other party's words seemed to be a little self-righteous, Garashi didn't ignore his opinion. After all, there's nothing wrong with being careful. Thank you for reminding me, I will be careful. Garashi nodded seriously and said with a sincere tone, we young people are still too shallow, if Senpai finds anything, please remind us in time. Seeing Garashi speak so seriously, Southern Shizuhoshi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Since joining the war, he has dealt with many Woodleaf shinobi, and although those people didn't say anything, he could still feel their disdain and contempt. Their strength is weak, and their background is weak, even as an ally, it's difficult to get the corresponding respect. As expected of the legendary Light of Woodleaf, he can still maintain humility and respect for us, the ninjas of small villages. Southern Shizuhoshi thought in his heart and solemnly promised, we will do our best. Soon, Garashi and others found several other scattered groups of Hokage troops. However, they weren't as lucky as Southern Shizuhoshi. With the participation of Yunin, ordinary Hokage ninjas were no match for them at all, and several battles were almost one-sided massacres. When they were found, they were already heavily injured. Damn Yunin, I will never let you go. In the name of Hokage, I will take revenge on Yunin. Southern Shizuhoshi and others had tears of blood in their eyes. Today's losses were almost comparable to the total losses of the previous 2 years. After all, ninja wars were originally based on small teams probing each other, and there were few large-scale conflicts. Even the few large-scale wars were fought with Woodleaf and Yunin as the stage. Small ninja villages like theirs were never the protagonists of war. If they really suffered heavy losses, they would have withdrawn long ago. They are sparing no effort to hunt down Hokage. Are they trying to intimidate and threaten our allies? Garashi couldn't help but think in this direction. There were more small countries standing on Woodleaf's side than Yunin, and if these small countries didn't dare to participate in the war, it would indeed be more advantageous for Yunin. However, Yunin has always been arrogant. They don't even put Woodleaf in their eyes. The position of a few small countries shouldn't be enough to make them lose face. Is it because of Hokage's meteorite, or their ability to fly? Just as Garashi was thinking like this, the sound of fighting came from the distance. In the forest, a group of Hokage ninjas were fighting with the enemy. Unlike other battlefields, with the help of a flying ninja in the sky, Hokage was in this battlefield is the upper hand. Damn it, this woman is so strong, she's not on the same level as the other shinobis. After all, he's a genius from the Chunin exam 2 years ago. It's not surprising that he has such strength. Hokage, Aishirzwa, ninja geniuses, everyone, hold on, I-sama and Bai-sama will be here soon. Xia Rixing, who was flying in the sky, had a dignified expression. If it's the A and B brothers, her air superiority won't play any role. The gap in strength between the two sides is too big. At most, she can guarantee her own escape. Wait a little longer, don't come now. But sometimes, the more you worry, the more likely it is to happen. In the next moment, the A and B brothers appeared in her sight with a dozen Yunin ninjas. It's over. Xia Rixing's heart was cold, and she immediately shouted, "Everyone, run away, I will cover you." However, A didn't care about the Hokage ninjas on the ground at all. He just stared at Xia Rixing in the sky. Good luck, I caught another one. B, get ready to launch. Got it, big brother's shuriken. With that, B's right arm muscles bulged, and he threw A into the sky. Whoosh! A lightning arc appeared around A's body, and like a thunder arrow, it tore through the air and shot towards Xia Rixing. What's that? Xia Rixing was startled. She didn't have time to react. She could only barely turn her body sideways. The thunder passed by her side, and after smashing one of her light wings, it rushed into the sky without slowing down. Xia Rixing, who lost one of her wings, fell to the ground. Fortunately, her light wings were chakra, and they quickly recovered. Xia Rixing, who was still in shock, finally reacted, their target is me. Boom! A fell straight from the sky and plunged into the ground upside down. Just as everyone was wondering if he had fallen to his death, AI pulled himself out as if nothing had happened to him. This guy's reaction is quite fast. He squinted his eyes. He relied on this trick several times before to kill 3 Hokage ninjas. He didn't expect that this time, the opponent actually dodged it. B, it's your turn this time. A twisted his neck, rubbed his hands, and said, create a few more clones, I will throw multiple shurikens. Killer B looked to the left with a dignified look, a troublesome guy is coming. In the mottled shadow of the trees, Garashi came out with his team and a large group of red-eyed ninjas. The scene was quiet, and Yunin ninjas who were still fighting quickly stopped fighting and retreated to A and B's side. Almost everyone's eyes were focused on Garashi and the AB brothers. Amazing. Xia Rixing's eyes were full of splendor. Just like 2 years ago, this man seemed to always be the focus of the crowd. Is this the deterrence of Woodleaf's light? Southern Shitsi and others were also shocked. They naturally didn't think that their arrival made Yunnan retreat. In the eyes of the real strong, the advantage of numbers has long been not so big. In this oppressive and silent atmosphere, it couldn't help but ask, "What, do you want to fight?" Garashi said calmly, "You should have heard about the battle between us and the 7 legendary swordsmen, right? You want to use this to scare me away?" A's eyes were full of ridicule. "Don't joke, we are not the same as those 7 pieces of trash. He and B are endurance ninjas with high defense and blood, and the tactics used to deal with Kirin can't be used on them." Garashi didn't deny it. "Yes, I can kill them in a short time, but I can't kill any of you." "Then why are you talking this nonsense? But I can kill everyone else before you break through the barrier." "You." A's eyes widened, and 2 white smoke came out of his nostrils. If it was only him and B, he wouldn't mind fighting with them. But in this situation, he really can't hold on. Garashi said, "Look at the eyes of those who trust you. Do you want to take them to death?" A subconsciously looked at his companions. Although his eyes were firm, they inevitably showed a trace of panic. His chest rose and fell, and finally, he gritted his teeth and said, "Everyone, retreat." Many young ninjas who had just joined the battlefield looked at this scene with excitement. The famous A and B brothers of Yunnan were scared by Garashi's few words, and they fled. It was really amazing. However, Southern Cross Star and the others couldn't help but ask, "Why didn't you leave them behind?" They retreated because they didn't know the effect of the barrier. "In fact, our barrier can only trap them for a minute, and this is far from enough time for you to move. When they escape, they will definitely take revenge on you. And I am only one person, and I really can't protect your safety." Hearing Garashi's explanation, Southern Cross Star said unhappily, "So we are the ones who are holding them back?" After Cloud Side left, AI Kai couldn't help cursing, "Why is it that bastard again? Can't he go and harm the Mist Village?" Killer B sighed faintly, "Just finished." Thinking of the 7 ninja swordsmen, A's mouth twitched. "Although it's not perfect, we can only launch it in advance. Tell those Kanjin that it's time to show their sincerity." You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.